going live on Riverside, YouTube, and Facebook.
Wow.
Facebook.
I haven't got a notification on YouTube yet, but
Facebook.
let's have a look.
We haven't started yet, but we're going to get everything set up. So this is a little behind the scenes with everyone.
Here we go. Quantum Leap Podcast is live. Just got a notification on YouTube.
I'm not
Sweet.
seeing
It works over there
coming
too?
yet.
Now live on your channel.
There it is.
So we're good there.
Gotta mute.
Here we go.
There you go.
Podcast is live. Just got a
There we go.
on YouTube.
There you
Now,
go.
are we on
There's a little
Facebook?
bit of a lag, but
Yeah, they're supposed to be, I think.
Yeah, it's probably gonna be 20, 30 seconds.
cool.
So you can beep out any curse words that might come out of my mouth.
Oh, it looks like we're live on Facebook.
That's good.
All right. That's a first.
Cool.
All
right.
right. Hopefully those comments will be integrated as well.
So I'm hearing
And-
somebody's echo from their
it's me.
stream.
It's me with
It's
my
me.
it's my phone
The
on.
problem, it's me.
So
There we go.
mute,
I just
mute
turned it off.
there. Yeah.
Yeah, I just turned it off.
Okay,
I just want to see
Albie.
that we were live.
So if you go into the YouTube chat and find the comment
Okay,
from
with the
Korman
Quantum Leap
Productions,
account, right?
right? We're gonna
All
get
right.
this time.
Korman Productions, I know them.
Yeah. You're gonna go to the 3 dots on the right of the
All
comment.
right. I'll get there.
Okay.
Thank you for putting up with my delay. I had to get everything ready and do the things and make myself somewhat presentable.
If you say so.
All right, go to my channel. Okay, and it looks like we are live.
We are live.
Let me mute that so we don't get a weird echo. And now what do I do, Stacie?
All right. Find the comment from Korman Productions.
Dot.
dot on the right. Something about moderator.
Add as moderator.
Yay! That only took 1 week. And a day.
And a day.
And a day. Now I can do.
Am I 4x3? Oh no, it just Riverside's fitting us in, I think. Okay. I was like, what did I do?
Now I can do
Oh.
links.
Yay, thank you for all the help. You're helping me so you can help me. And I appreciate that. All right. Let's see. I think that looks good. All right. What page are we starting on later, Chris?
We are starting on page 123, which is the beginning of chapter 12.
12. That's the furthest I got in a book in a long time.
Yep. And if you want, I can just do a brief.
Yeah.
Recap.
Recap kind of thing. Yep. All right. Let me make sure everything's going good. This is for me. All right. I think we're good. Everybody good? Damon might be joining us, and we have a couple other people invited. We'll see.
Great. Cool.
But I think we can do up to 9 now.
Ooh.
Wow.
Possibly 12. Oh, we have chat. Okay, we'll read it once we get on there.
We have chat.
But once we're on there, okay. Once we start live.
We give good chat.
That's what I heard about you. All right. Okay, Quantum Leap, right? Yep. Okay.
Yep.
And got my glasses. Hello, Leapers, and welcome back to the Quantum Leap Podcast. I'm Albie.
I'm Chris.
And then you
I'm
guys
MC Queen.
Hi, I'm Mike.
Hi, I'm Stacie.
We have the great Hayden McQueenie, the great Stacie. Stacie, what's your last name? Stacie TV Talk Podcast?
My last name is Wilcox.
Stacie
From
Wilcox.
the Korman Productions Deep Dive TV Podcast.
Yes, Korman Productions Deep
Yes.
Dive.
Hey,
TV.
we finally got it right.
There we go.
No, you
It's
didn't.
But it rolls off the tongue. That's the thing.
It does.
And we have the great Mike Bloxam. Mike, this is the first time I've ever
Mike.
met you. I believe. I believe I've read some of your comments on the QLP at times.
He's been on a few of our live streams.
That's true. Yep. And we've also met in person at the 2009
Oh my
Quantum
God.
Leap convention. Of course, you
Oh,
met a lot
yeah,
of
a
people
minute
there.
ago.
I don't remember if I was even there. Did I meet you there?
Chris
You have to
signing
pay
a lot
Chris
of
for his
autographs. He might
comments,
not
so-
remember everybody that time.
That's right. You signed my book, so
Oh, wonderful. All
Oh,
right.
wow. So you have a
Oh.
signed copy?
I do. Would you like to see it?
Yes. Everybody, hold up your good book.
It says to Mike. I can't read in mirror. Thanks for keeping the leap. Yeah. So there we go.
Nice.
Wow.
Yeah.
That looks authentic. I would say that's authentic.
It's authentic. Like,
Mine's fine
wait, I
too.
want you guys to compare the signature in Mike's book
Ooh.
to the signatures in your books because I was probably so young and full of myself at that point. Like I had like this signature that looked like a freaking rose bush. Yeah, you can see that. And now it's a lot less. It's a lot less elaborate.
One
Plus,
of these aren't authentic.
I just do Chris DeFilippis now. I used to do Christopher F. DeFilippis. The
Oh.
whole
F. Get the F out.
Wow.
I don't even know your middle name. I should.
Oh, it was like a whole thing once, wasn't it? No, it was on Captain Game Show. You have to listen to the latest episode of Captain Game Show, hosted by the beautiful John Irons.
Is
To
John
beautiful
Irons
John
on
Irons.
already?
you can learn what my middle name is.
Oh,
on
I got that
Ooh.
link too. Where is it? See, I
All right,
told you I was
beautiful John
prepared.
Irons. The beautiful John Irons joined us in our last Trek Exploration
There we
episode.
go.
Check that out on Trek Exploration.
And he was
On
here for one of the table reads too, wasn't he? Of the book.
I want to
Oh,
say,
yes, he was for the
yes.
first one.
yes, the beautiful John Irons. All right. So what we're doing tonight, if you're not aware, this is part 3 of a 4-part live series we're doing to support our friend Matt Dale and his family. We're trying to raise funds through his GoFundMe. On your screen, you will see a QR code. You can scan that with your phone and go to the link, or just Google Matt Dale GoFundMe. And this is for Matt's family. We lost Matt last Christmas, about a year ago, coming up soon. And we're celebrating his life. And what we're doing is we're getting together and trying to raise money for his partner and his son. So Sharon and Zach, and anything you can give will help out. And also, we're going to have fun while we're doing it. Like I said, this is part 3. So if you haven't seen part 1 or 2, watch those later and just combine it all in your head later. But Chris is going to give you a little recap because we actually have the author of Foreknowledge with us today. We're so lucky to get him. Christopher DeFilippis. Chris, tell us what we missed.
Okay. So last time we established that Sam was a mud wrestler, and he decided that it was his mission to reunite a brother and sister who had been estranged. But then he got caught up in some small town politics on his leap, and he convinced the owner of the club to run for mayor of town because she is trying to beat a self-righteous council member. We also found that the main protagonist or antagonist of the book, Anne-Marie, regained her memory of her leap, but she doesn't know who Sam is or anything like that. She just remembers that she switched places with somebody, and that's the reason she's in prison, and she has sworn vengeance. She doesn't know how, she doesn't know when. And back at the project, they discover that Ziggy has been glitching because she has been getting alternating histories for Anne-Marie. And it turns out that Anne-Marie, with her pseudo foreknowledge of the project and of Sam leaping into her, will do something that will eventually lead to Sam's death. And that's why they're having so many problems at the project. And Al is starting to notice changes in the timeline manifesting around him, changes that were once dependent on Sam's leaps. So that's where we were. And at the very end of that chapter, after one of those changes happened right before his eyes, he said, "We don't have time to discuss this anymore. Tina, get me a Fermi suit. He's going to leap."
Wow. Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, dun,
So excited. So
dun.
excited. Before we start, and I assign chapters and such, does anyone have a heart out tonight?
Not I.
Okay, good, good, good. Also, we have a little bit of a giveaway coming up, and we'll talk about that in between some of the chapters. So stay tuned for that. Find out how you can get your own inscribed copy of Foreknowledge by the author.
We have it, and it's ready to be given away.
Awesome. Before we start, we might have some comments. Adrian says, hello all. Hello all.
Is that Adrian Sal?
I think so. All the way from the land down under.
Adrian Sal, you
Vegemite
dog,
and,
you hound.
Kangaroos and all that.
You
stuff.
Joey.
Korman says, hello. I think that's Stacie.
That's Stacie.
That is me.
Janice is back as well.
Okay, going through them. We got a lot. Thank you guys, everyone. Oh, we got links. ... That's Hayden. Korman. Okay, that's starting again. Kathy. Stacie Wilcox is awesome. I agree.
Yay, Stacie Wilcox.
How much did you have to pay her to write that, Stacie?
That's probably one of her other accounts or my account. Who knows? All right. Okay, I think we're good with comments. And remember, this is for Matt. So follow the QR code and or Google Matt Dale GoFundMe. I would like to start out chapter 12. That's where we're starting. Page 123. It's easy as 123. Could we get the author to read chapter 12?
Oh, you'd like me to start?
I'd like you to start.
Chapter 12. Okay, chapter 12 of Foreknowledge, A Quantum Leap Original Adventure by Christopher DeFilippis.
Woo!
To hell with him. Oh, my glasses on. Good start. Mention my
I got
name
extra
and say,
pairs
"To hell
if you
with
need
him."
them.
There we go. Let me hold it up so people don't see my face.
Can I just have a reminder of who Rodimer is?
He's a new character just for this chapter, so it will all become clear. Okay. To hell with him. It's the price I named or the show is off. I don't think I'll have a problem finding another buyer. Rodimer studied his shoes. He said something about calling the cops. Amory walked around the front of the desk. Amory walked around to the front of the desk. Is that so? Her tone made the courier lift his head. Well, tell Simmons that if he wants to screw with me, I'm sure the cops will be real interested in his private collection. Always repay threats with bigger threats. That's your lesson for today. Now, go tell him. You'll see how his tune changes. If I don't hear back from him in 45 minutes, his package goes to the next in line. She walked the man out of her office and across the shop. She unlocked the door. And if you use a phone within 15 blocks of here, I never saw you before. I know the drill, Rodimer said testily, and I'm getting sick of it. When do I get to make a deal of my own? When I think you can handle it, Billy boy. That's when. If you don't like it, I'm sure the McDonald's on West 4th is hiring. Out. Rodimer sulked out onto the sidewalk, and Anne-Marie bolted the door behind him. Damn kid is too eager for his own good. And how about that Simmons threatening to call the police? Well, if it's about breaking balls these days, I can be the biggest ball breaker of them all. Fight, child, but keep the greater prize in mind. The greater prize, Anne-Marie mumbled to no one. That prize, that face, was the only thing that kept her fighting at times. She had struggled more in the last 2 years than she had in her entire life, but the gods were on her side. Of that, she was sure. She had found out as much about them and the religion Evangeline had introduced her to as she could after she got out. It wasn't an easy task. It was called Santeria. Some sources said it was basically Caribbean. Others said that it had Latin American origins. It was linked to voodoo, strangely tied to Catholicism, and was a way of life for a lot of Cuban natives. She could find only one book that gave it African roots, saying the slave trade introduced it around the world. Only the Orishas, the powers that ruled over the mania of nature and humanity, remained constant. They were what mattered to Anne-Marie. To harness their favor was to harness the world. They had shown her favor in many ways. For one, the feds had missed a few of her bank accounts. The money didn't amount to much more than a sneeze, really, even with a decade's worth of interest tacked on, but it was enough to establish the shop and conduct legitimate business while she got her feet under her again. She walked through the shop past relics of a slightly older time. A German headboard here, an Italian dresser there, some early American pieces, not great stuff, even for a small-time Greenwich Village antique dealer. But she felt some affinity for it, and it was enough to fool the world. The gods had made that easier as well, seeing to it that she served her full sentence. No parole officer came to check on her. No restrictions were placed on her movements. She was rehabilitated in the eyes of the law, no longer a threat to society, nice and invisible. She planned on staying that way. The business had changed a lot while she was on the inside, had become even more ruthless. No one worked in set circles any longer. Smugglers were taking their cues from the Fortune 500 these days. The only code left was hooray for me and the hell with you. It had taken her this long to reestablish old contacts and make new ones that she could trust. Even she, if she could even call it that. Drops were the only thing she handled personally, and not even those were face-to-face. Rodimer made it easier. He was fool enough to do anything she said. He picked up the special parcels delivered to the empty apartment in Jersey, made all the phone calls, and was hungry enough to hang on with no more than an empty promise or two. The perfect patsy if things got hot. She reached her office and gave a last glance to the quiet street through the front window before closing the door and retrieving Simmons' package from the corner. The crate's lightness belied the treasure within. All the transactions she had made since getting out were dry runs to prepare for this. It was her first important deal, her first real move towards regaining all that she had lost, her first step in destroying him. You rise, he falls. It's nature reclaiming her proper order. He falls, she repeated as Evangeline's voice came again. At least she thought it was her friend's voice. It was darker, more sinister, but it held the same southern cadence. Who else could it be? Amory dug the claw of the hammer behind the wood and pulled. The nails made a satisfying squeal, and the top of the crate popped away. She threw it to the floor and dug through the Excelsior. The small footstool inside was 17th century French. She already had a potential buyer for the piece, which would fetch 500 easy. A small bonus. She cleared the desk and flipped the stool over, prying the legs carefully from the base and setting the frame aside. The tacks keeping the heavy floral fabric in place pulled out easily. Her heart raced, but she forced herself to work carefully. The cambric gave way to a pine base. She reached underneath, between the ancient horsehair and cotton batting, and slid out a plastic pouch. She put the package aside and reassembled the stool. The shop's legitimacy had just become a charade, and maintaining it was more important than ever. She filled out a tag, attached it to the stool, and found a spot for it out front. Business attended to, she returned to the office and took the package off her desk, unbolted the door behind the desk, and descended into the safety of her room. The smell of hot wax intruded on the musty dampness, flickering flames casting their soft glow around the cellar. The candles, lit 24 hours a day, were grouped in the colors pleasing to the different Orishas. Red, black, and white for Alegba, green and black for Ogun, blue and white for Yamaya, pure white for Obalata, currying their constant favor, their all-seeing power. Roaches scurried underfoot as Anne-Marie made her way across the cracked concrete floor to the night table beside her bunk and switched on the lamp there. Sketches of Mirror Man overlapped on the walls, their variety ever increasing, ever reminding. She had spent endless nights scratching them out, preventing herself from forgetting him. The converted storage room was a replica of her cell, but it was a prison of her own design, and it served a purpose. That made all the difference. Its darkness fostered the nightmares, kept the pain fresh, alive. It kept her focused on the greater purpose. You'll remain weak so long as he lives, and weaklings are never free. She cringed in the gloomy space. It was the other voice, the one she didn't like, the one that always chided, always pointed out how worthless and ineffectual she had become. She tried not to listen to it, squeezed her ears against it so hard at times that she thought that they would bleed. It never worked. She sat on the bunk and unsealed the pouch, drawing out a cardboard sheath. Inside, sandwiched between pieces of acid-free paper, were 4 of the most beautiful works of art she had ever handled. Each ancient piece of parchment, heavy and yet fragile, depicted a scene from the New Testament, colorful illustrations by a monk long dead. The book from which they had been cut was at least a millennium old, collecting dust in the holdings of a cathedral library in Spain. The art historian within her took in their splendor, grieved for the mutilation of a priceless artifact. The other factions of her mind, writhing in hate and shame, saw new possibilities. 500,000 of them, to be exact. Amory laughed, a faint reflection of the sounds careening through her head. With this deal, she would finally have the resources to hire someone, maybe several someones, to find Mirror Man, to attach a name to the face that had dangled like a carrot tied to a stick in her mind's eye these many years. Her features had fought her since Oh, okay, sorry. His features had fought her since she had left prison, had tried to take on a ghostly quality, but she fought back, holding tight to every detail, every line, every hair. Even as she did, he lingered in the corridors of her mind, laughing at her struggle, at its futility. How could she possibly find him? Even if she had an empire's worth of money at her disposal, the only lead she had to go on were fevered night drawings. She even found herself wondering if he was real at times. Had it all been a delusion? No doubt. She sprang from the cot, bearing down on the nearest sketch. He had to be real. She needed him to be real, needed to see him destroyed. Otherwise, the voices would never leave her alone. It won't be long now, Dr. Frankenstein, she said softly, caressing the image. How will your scream sound, I wonder? She looked at the face for a long time, absorbing every detail in her mind before she retrieved the manuscript pages and left the room. The parchment rustling in her hands bolstered her spirits. They were victory enough in themselves, but she forced self-control. She would permit herself to celebrate only when his death-glazed eyes could bear witness. Ambery took a cardboard tube from her desk and carefully rolled the yellowed parchments, depositing them inside. The phone rang a few minutes later. Simmons already? She swore Rodimer could fly sometimes. She picked up the receiver. Antique Village. It's a go. The phone clicked down on the other end. She deposited the tube into her purse and put on her coat and hat, then checked her pockets for tokens before pulling on her gloves. A short hop on the subway was all that remained. She walked up Perry Street, admiring the elegant brownstone apartments draped in ivy and wrought iron, the mystical castles of New York's choir to royalty. She thought of her main clientele, the assholes who preened on the Upper West Side, draping their fortunes from their Parkview terraces and hiding behind legions of doormen, the faux rich and the Eurotrash, all having about as much real class as a Queen's lottery winner. But not her. The village was a model of subdued riches, set amid drag queens and discount record stores, dark cafes and tacky t-shirt shops. It was alive, spicy, what she ached to be. Immersing herself in it was another reminder, another way never to forget how dead and empty he had made it all. She turned down Christopher Street and stalked to the subway station, then descended to the platform. The urine-scented air and filthy gray concrete underfoot reminded her of prison. The train's sliding roar brought to mind automated barred doors rolling closed. Even the soft dinging indicating the closing of the train's doors seemed an homage to prison's ever-present bells. The ride uptown was peaceful, however. Evangeline never joined her in the subway. Traveling through one dark tunnel after another, she finally reached her destination. The Port Authority terminal was damp and crowded, milling with uniformed workers, homeless wastes, and the poor fools of the world who had no choice but to travel by bus. She walked leisurely along the broad corridors towards the banks of lockers, even though she had taken a local train that stopped at every station. She wanted to be sure Rodimer had enough time to do his job. When she finally reached her destination, she looked for locker 64. She had chosen it because the number was etched on her brain, the first part of her prison identity. No one else could use it because Rodimer always held on to the key. She groped in her purse, finding the duplicate she had made, and slid it home with a twist of its orange head. The attaché case was inside. She drew it out and put the tube in the locker, then closed the locker and deposited enough coins into the slot to get her key back. Pardon me. Rodimer would return for the tube shortly to deliver it to Simmons. Her risk factor stayed minimal, and if Billy Boy got pinched, her key would go sailing off the 59th Street Bridge. He says I had a duplicate key made, officer? Isn't that thing sort of illegal? I only hired him to run errands a few days a week. She laughed into the surging mass of people enjoying the thought. Maybe it wouldn't be that easy, but there wasn't a shred of physical evidence that could link her to the stolen pages unless someone was trailing her right this second with a hidden camera. Laundering the cash came next, as easy as Rosa with a CO. Years of buildup ended in the weight dangling from her fingers. She was no longer on the outside looking in, or on the inside longing to get out. She was a true player, something she had not been even in the days before prison, before her conflict with the good doctor. But it wouldn't be enough until she saw fear in his eyes again, his terror this time. Day by day, we're getting closer. We'll be a-singing in the clouds while he's a-dying in the dirt. You said it. Hope is a disease for fools. Hope is a disease of fools. Fool. No, his time will come. Evangeline says so. The Orishas will make it so. Anne-Marie was oblivious to the stare she drew, the voices spurring her on past the subway entrance. She would take a cab back to the shop. It would mean a witness who could put her in this place at this time, but you didn't board a subway train carrying $500,000 unless you were insane. She joined the taxi line on the sidewalk, lifting her collar and pulling down her hat. She studied the sidewalk, a nondescript mass of winter wear turned up against the chilly October afternoon. The next cab was hers. As it pulled up, she caught her fish-eyed reflection, and another in its window. She went cold, felt the terror of the blue room. Mirror Man's face hovered beside hers, washed ghostly in the glass. She fingered the wraith, the world going mute, then wheeled in an explosion of ire. Her free hand reached up in an involuntary claw. Kill! A glossy picture of the Mirror Man confronted her, his smile framed by a red border, and the fingers of the man holding him up. Time magazine. It was a copy of Time being read by the man waiting behind her. Man of the Year? The cab driver beeped the horn with impatience, and the man peered at her over the edge of the open pages, eyebrows raised in a question. Can I help you? You just did. She grabbed the periodical and hopped into the cab. Perry and Bank, she said absently, and the driver pulled into the honking stream. She took in his image, stunned beyond words. Part of her mind howled. Another part wept in joy. The only sound she could seem to manage were giggle after stupid giggle. Sam Beckett, she finally managed. The unremarkable words rolled off her tongue, awkward. Sam Beckett, she repeated. Not very exotic, not as dangerous as she'd imagined it would be. It was a name as plain and real as his nondescript features, as stupid as the white lock of hair falling across his forehead. Droplets fell on the page, distorting his smile. The adrenaline coursing through her made Anne-Marie shaky, nauseated, and she rolled down the window. Please, the heat. Huh? She stared toward the front seat. The driver studied her in the rearview mirror, eyes curious. You're letting the heat out. It's cold. I was just having a smoke, she replied dumbly, fishing the cigarettes out of her purse and bringing one to her lips. Want one? The driver shook his head and drove on in silence. Anne-Marie kept her eyes focused on the passing traffic. The prize sitting in her lap terrified her. She didn't know why. Coward. It's not supposed to be like this, she mumbled. All the dreams she had had of this moment never included such queasy dread. He's the one who needs to be scared. She took a nervous drag on the cigarette, hand trembling. What's the problem? Still bound to fear, child? It's easy to swear revenge against a fool fantasy, to cuss at pictures in the dark. You going to let a little flesh and blood stop you now? No! Anne-Marie pitched the cigarette. One more puff would make her gag. She swept the magazine out of her lap, emotion seething. I am not afraid of you. Are you okay, lady? Anne-Marie looked up, saw the driver staring at her once more as he brought the cab to a halt. Washington Square Park lay directly in front of them, the low afternoon sun casting the arch in glaring relief. Here, I'll get out here. She found a 10 in her purse and shoved it through the slot in the cab's protected divider before stepping out, magazine clutched to her chest. She walked through the park and read. A farm boy, a prodigy, a musician, a doctor in 7 different ways, 5 of which had to do with physics, none in sociology. The next, Albert Einstein. Anne-Marie's mood worsened as she learned more. A regular Mr. All-fucking American, this one. And not only was he Man of the Year, he was next in line for the Nobel Prize for his revolutionary work in physics. She reread the article twice on the way back to the shop, each go-round making her madder and madder because she could find no mention of the work connecting him to her. The closest thing was a line saying he had been associated with various government projects. Had no one exposed his heinous crime? There was also an interview with one of his college professors. She skimmed the piece, looking for details she needed, but soon closed the magazine in disgust. Another one who couldn't gush enough, it seemed. Anne-Marie walked on in a haze of frustration and bewilderment. How could a monster warrant such accolades? When she finally turned the key in the shop's front door, the magazine was little more than a ball of crumpled pages at her fist. She stalked back to her office, turned on the light, and threw the copy of Time at her desk. It careened off the blotter and hit the wall, pages spreading sloppily on the floor. She was on her way to pick it up when the phone rang. Hello, she barked. Did you get it? Oh, I got him all right. How did Rodimer know about him? She always kept her room locked. How did you find out? If he had been snooping around. What do you mean? I'm the one who dropped it off. The phone clunked noisily on the wooden desk, and Anne-Marie sat down hard. It replayed in her mind slowly, painfully, excruciating in its detail. Searching through her purse for cab fare, her eyes moving back and forth, sweeping across the briefcase on the floor next to her feet, sweeping but not seeing, climbing out of the cab with only the magazine. He had done it to her again. The voices screamed. She screamed with them, holding her ears against the terrible noise within and without. $500,000, touring the city in a smelly cab until it found a new owner. She would never see it again. Hell, she hadn't even seen it a first time. Her fear, her confusion, her anger, her pain hardened into a cold ball, pulsating in her middle with wave upon wave of hate. It brought with it a strange calm, lent a new determination. She retrieved the magazine from the floor behind her and smoothed the pages, looking for a certain article as she picked up the receiver once again. The hell is going on? Shut up and listen. When you come back, have a gun with you or don't bother coming back at all. Ammo too. She dropped the receiver, breaking the connection. As much as the money was worth, she told herself again and again, it was really meaningless. She had desired it only as a means to find him. That end had been achieved, and it took only one deal to do it. The gods were indeed showing her favor. She rifled through the magazine in front of her. Where was it? Pages tore under her hands. There, the professor's interview. He was planning a celebration, a small shindig for Dr. Beckett. She closed the magazine and stared at him, drank him in. Dr. Beckett. She enjoyed the foulness of the words on her tongue. The rock in her stomach convulsed faster, provided strength. My dear Sam, how will your scream sound, I wonder?
Wow.
Bum, bum, bum.
Great job, Chris.
Did you run out of names, Chris?
Huh?
Christopher Street?
No, that's a real place. Every place I mentioned in the village are places I've been, including
I have to
Antique
ask
Village.
you, the
Yeah.
Arch, is that
The
where
Arch.
me and Serenity went?
Yep, that's where we dropped you guys off, and I took the picture of you going down. It's where Harry met Sally was.
Yep, that is
Yeah.
so cool. We did that because of When Harry Met Sally, and every time we watch a Friends episode and they show it, we go, we were there.
Yeah, no, I know the village a little bit because my wife went to NYU, and I would visit her a lot. And then my uncle, believe it or not, got an apartment on Perry Street, and that's when I fell in love with it. And I showed it to you, Albie. I showed you that area when we were there in the city.
That was fun. That was
Yeah.
nice. It was so cozy. I don't know. That's the best way I can describe it.
No, it's a wonderful, wonderful place to be. So I was happy to put Anne-Marie there because I knew it, so I could write about it a little bit. And I certainly knew that subway smelled like urine too. So
That's because there's only one bathroom in all of New York City. I know this because I pee every half hour, and in New York City, you got to hold it for about 12 hours.
yeah,
You have to plan your day around the bathrooms in the city.
I only found one in the whole city.
M&M
So-
store, 3rd floor.
Really? Okay. How about that, Chris? Next time.
M&M store, 3rd
Yeah.
floor, also one in the Rubenstein atrium across the street from the Metropolitan Opera, across the street from Lincoln Center.
You can count the bathrooms on one hand.
Yep.
Yeah. Chris is just like, I'm a New Yorker. I hold it 12 hours. I'm like,
do.
"Ah."
He goes in the subway.
I say the alternative is to go to the subway.
I guess you got to do what you got to do.
Hey,
Chris.
Chris,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah,
I would have had Max from It's a Wonderful Leap, the cab driver, be the cab driver that drove Anne-Marie around.
I don't know if it lines up. How old would Max be in 1980? When was Sam?
I don't remember. What year was It's a Wonderful Leap? Does anyone know? Was that the 80s as well?
Earlier than that, I think.
Yeah.
Max would have
So
been
from-
older.
years.
You know,
from
I-
as a kid, so
I tried to
Yeah.
put in as many Easter eggs as I could, Hayden, but at some point it becomes distracting, right?
yeah.
Damon!
Well, it would have been funny if
Sugi,
the
Sugi,
$500,000
Sugi, what's
ended
up?
built
Sounds,
in-
wait, guys,
Hey.
we're getting an echo from Damon, I believe.
Yeah.
We're getting an echo from
Yeah.
Damon, I believe.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah.
We saw
It's funny,
Damon. There was the Sugi.
There he is.
It would have
So
been funny if that $500,000 could have gotten Max his medallion.
There you go.
It's a
Different time,
Wonderful Leap was May 10th, 1958.
58.
Yeah,
I was
so
close.
30 years
It's got to
too
be
late.
80 something, I guess. We'll know when Al targets his leap, I guess.
I love the part about opening the crate and the description. It gave me like a crumb of an idea of what the Seeker kind of feels like. So I like that.
What the antiquity and the horsehair.
Yeah.
Horsehair. Yeah,
Damon, we got Damon.
Hey,
Better
Damon.
now?
I
Let's see.
picked that one right out of the headlines. Someone had gotten arrested for stealing some illuminated manuscript pages from a library in Spain, and I read the article.
Wow.
Just serendipity. That is actually the chapter that I just read is the one I had to rewrite like 3 times. I had written a couple of different chapters where Anne-Marie was in like just some shitty dead end job and not knowing what she was going to do and being really kind of mousy and pathetic. And it just wasn't working, and it wasn't working. I said, because that's not Anne-Marie. Anne-Marie wouldn't do that. Anne-Marie would go out and do everything she could right away to get back on top. And that's when the whole thing with the antique store and all that came. And then I read that article about the manuscript pages, and I said, oh my God, maybe the Orishas are talking to me. I don't know. So
I liked the mention of the change in time since she'd been in prison, and how like the entire smuggling sort of techniques had changed over that time, and she had to be more careful of not being filmed on security cameras and stuff like that. Yeah, I thought that was cool.
Cool.
Christopher, could you let us know about our little bit of a giveaway we're doing?
Yeah, I mean, so we're doing this, no obligation, no purchase required, but for people who comment, who join in the stream, who do contribute to Matt's GoFundMe, you can find the link here on the live chat. You can find it down below in the comment section of the YouTubes. Anywhere you're watching, you'll be able to find that link. Anyone who participates in any way will be in the running for a free copy of Foreknowledge, autographed and personalized by me to you. So please join us. Tell your friends. You could get a copy. From what I understand, these are pretty hard to come by now. They're very tough to get because I think the print runs were smaller for the later novels. So it's a good get, and the copy that I'm going to send you is pretty much pristine. So I'd hope that you would keep it that way.
Mine's been well loved and traveled.
Yeah, we'd like to really just encourage everybody to comment, to join in, and of course to donate to Matt's GoFundMe, so that we can help maybe provide a little bit better of a Christmas for his partner and his son. And it'll never be as good as it would if Matt were there, but we can only remember and try our best to help keep his memory alive.
I think I just had an idea while we're doing this, Chris. I think we should give people a gift if they donate, as long as this is legal to give people gifts.
Yeah, I'm not really sure. You can't do that on Patreon for some reason. I don't know what it's like on YouTube or Riverside. Or
if anyone, and we've gotten some good donations so far, and thank you everyone. If anyone donates over £100, I'd say £1 to Matt's GoFundMe,
LBS.
I think Chris and I can send you, just as a free gift, a like a tote bag, but not a tote bag, a QLP mug. Do you have a QLP mug in front of you?
I don't have it. My QLP mug is downstairs. I think my QLP mug broke, actually.
Oh, really? We got to get more anyway.
Yeah,
so,
So
how about a surprise piece of QLP merch?
Yeah,
right.
Surprise piece of QLP merch. Yep.
This is valid through the month of November.
We also have water bottles.
That's the logo that's on the mug.
Yeah, that's the logo that's on the mug. That's the logo that the brilliant Scott Madison made for us, our graphic designer extraordinaire. Also, anybody who is watching, you can get the GoFundMe through the QVC code or QRC, whatever that's
QR
called.
code.
QR.
That thing, that code, that thing. All right, I'm an old.
Yeah.
So
and don't worry if you've already donated, because we did get some over $100 pound ones, and but if you've already donated and you wanted to qualify for the mug, it's like the total. So like if you donated 20 or 80, you can just donate the rest to go over the 100 to get the mug, and that's just a gift for me and Chris to say thank you for doing this for us.
And super big thank you to those who have donated recently. Willard, Kimberly, Miley, Charles, and Natalie. I got to think that's the amazing Willard. Over at
the omnipotent Willard.
The omnipotent Willard, who is a lifetime member over there, part of the Q Continuum. And Captain Charles. I'm going to think it's Captain Charles, but maybe not. I know Miley. It's probably Miley Innes. She was a big fan of the QLP when we were going regular. So thank you, Miley.
I believe it's Captain Charles, but whatever Charles that is, I think they got a mug coming to him already.
Okay, cool.
All right. So thank you guys, everyone. And so get in the running, comment, like, share, or donate, or all of it, and then you'll be in the running for the inscribed book from Christopher DeFilippis. And it's going to be personalized to your liking, and it will be on video, so you have proof that it's real. Unlike Mike. Hey, Mike.
How you doing, Albie?
How are you feeling about chapter 13?
Oh, lucky chapter 13.
There you
Yeah.
go.
Sure.
I have a math question. Christopher, how many chapters are left tonight?
1, 2.
We were going to go till the end of 17, weren't we?
3.
I'm starting at 12.
4.
Yeah.
Okay.
5 chapters left tonight. They're relatively short chapters, though.
Okay,
there are
so we
5
should be
left.
fine.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure, just in case we got to share a chapter or something. So,
Yeah,
Mike,
Albie.
lucky chapter 13. Yeah,
All right.
I'm perfectly fine not reading, by the way.
me too. I don't want to put anyone through that. I got to practice more.
Did you guys start at chapter 12, though?
We did. You missed it.
Oh, I missed
Came in just after
You missed it.
Christmas.
You came in.
okay.
I read it. It was such a spectacular reading.
Oh,
You'll
was
never
such a-
see the like again,
okay.
Damon.
All right.
You can catch
okay.
it on the replay on YouTube, on
Okay.
Facebook, on where
Sorry,
else
guys,
are we?
The chills that would have gone down your
I'm
spine.
a tired
Riverside.
dad.
How many
Yeah.
copies of that shirt do you have, Damon?
I know this is I wore it last week. Yeah.
Yeah.
In and out. Yeah, yeah.
Dadding always takes priority over everything. You got to
Yeah.
dad
True.
first. And then if there's any
All right.
time where you're not dadding, then we do the silly stuff, right?
Yep.
That's right.
100%.
Uh,
So anytime you're
All right.
ready, Mike.
All right. Chapter
Thank you.
13. We all know dirt and politics go together, but this Arkansas candidate brings new meaning to the term mudslinging. Click. She's a mud queen. He's squeaky clean. But now both are getting down and dirty in this small town showdown. Click. Politics is a slick game, but this mud wrestling mayoral hopeful knows all about slippery conditions. Click. Sam turned off the television and sipped his ginger ale in shock. I can't believe what's going on here. Why did you turn that off? Kat asked, searching for the remote. I want to see how they put it all together. Don't worry. Sam held the clicker out of reach. The other girls are all on VCR duty. You will be able to show the tapes to your grandchildren. You need to practice some more. I don't have grandchildren, and I'm not likely to either unless God is in the mood for a miracle. Now hand over that remote or get out of my bar. I mean campaign headquarters. Sam shook his head. No can do. You said yourself, things are moving quickly. Now that Behringer wants a debate, you have to be ready. He'll beat you otherwise. Then those stories will be the only thing you have. We've been over it and over it, Kat said, getting up. And we'll go over it again. Sam tried to keep his tone neutral. Press doesn't mean votes, and the town won't put you in office unless you can show people you're about more than keeping this bar open. Right now, you should be satisfied that I'm keeping my hands around your throat, Kat shot back, flipping a cigarette from the pack lying on the bar. Doing this was never about keeping the club open. You know that. There's a lot of places where I can take my business and be welcomed with open arms. It's not a question of whether or not we know it. Agitation was creeping into Sam's tone. You have to make the town know it too. And you have to do it with Behringer trying to trip you up the entire time. He can turn your words around and make a fool out of you without even breaking a sweat. He snatched the lighter out of her reach. Please don't like that here. Kat tapped the cigarette on the bar and stood. I'm taking 5. Make it 3, Sam smiled. I'll be waiting. She retreated to the office, scowling as she lit up. No smoking was a rule he had imposed early on. If he had to prep the woman for this election, he didn't see why he had to choke doing it. Sure, it interrupted their prep time and made Kat irritable, but at least he could breathe. They had little enough time for breathing. Things were indeed moving quickly. By the afternoon, following Sam's initial suggestion, The girls had canvassed the town and collected enough signatures on petitions to put Kat officially on the ballot. The decision to set up a debate was also impromptu. Once Berenger had heard Kat's candidacy, he insisted on it. Apparently, the councilman hadn't been satisfied with the coverage of the council meetings. Not one station had aired his Churchill quotation, and was looking for a forum where he could pit himself against Kat's evil influence, most likely in a frenzy of exaggerated gestures and blustery sound bites. Things really began to happen, though, when one of the networks picked the story up from a local affiliate and ran it to end the national newscast. The afternoon talk shows then got hold of it. Within 2 days, Wilson was swamped with news crews from around the country, a town shot headfirst into the maw of tabloid television. The shows he had just deprived Kat of seemed primitive to Sam. By the time he had first leaped, news in the 1990s was being driven by slick, first-run syndicated infotainment shows like Hard Copy and Inside Edition. But the magazine shows were still floundering in the late 1980s, still taking time to find their niche before their incredible proliferation took place. Of course, the content hadn't changed much, just viewer standards. All the programming was driven by sensationalism, dishing out a steady diet of juicy celebrity tidbits, the occasional royal scandal, and stories about regular people caught in situations offbeat enough to be compelling. Kat's story fit the bill perfectly. It had politics. It had intrigue. It had conflict. And most important, it had girls in bikinis. The opportunities weren't lost on Kat. She took to the coverage like a preacher to a congregation, playing her knowledge of exploitation techniques like a finely tuned instrument. She insisted that the girls wear bathing suits and accompany her to the barrage of interviews she was doing. The camera's eye had found her, and she wanted to keep its attention as long as she could. At least she was intent on winning. The roller coaster ride they were on was exciting, far more than he ever anticipated. But Sam, having spent the better part of the last 2 days in a bikini and high heels, was getting a bit queasy and irritated. Kat was paying too much attention to the sizzle and not enough to the steak. They had drilled for hours, but she was still barely prepared for her confrontation with Berenger in 3 nights' time. If she really wanted a shot at winning, she would have to convince the townspeople she could be a good mayor. They were the ones who held the chips, and he knew that if the whole country was watching the power clashes of this town, then its citizens should turn out in full force at the polls. Support was high for now. It all hinged on the debate. It would either keep the momentum rolling or stop it dead. That realization was what had Kat on edge. Despite the enthusiasm she displayed for the media, he knew she was terrified of confronting the councilman in a debate. It was like pitting a street brawler against a black belt. The thug might win, but the odds were long. Sam's stake in shortening them was the biggest of all. That was the root of his worsening mood. The specter of spending the rest of his life as Candy Apple was continually looming at the edges of his thoughts. Kat's seeming indifference to the issues made the possibility all the more likely. There was only one thing that could dispel it, but if he saw Al right now, Sam would be more angry than relieved. No explanation he offered would be good enough. A childish reaction, maybe, but hologram or not, Sam was going to kick the observer where the sun didn't shine. Let's get started again. Kat resumed her seat, reeking of smoke and perfume. The combination didn't improve Sam's mood. And there's no reason to look like you're going to kill me. I know you're right about the debate. It's just that it's been a while since the public showed any interest in me, and I've never been this mainstream. I forgot how much like a drug it could be. Permit an old has-been her fix. You may be many things, Sam said, mood lightening, but you're no has-been. Has-beens cling to past glories instead of focusing on new challenges. I don't think you have that problem. Such as the new challenges Wilson will face in the shrinking economy of the next decade? Now you're talking, said Sam. Keep the strategy in mind. Focus on the issues. That way, if he attacks your character, it'll look like he's avoiding what's important. A questionable strategy in politics, taking the high road. But it was a road he was familiar with, and Sam saw it as the best option. Let's hear some predictions and solutions. Remember, be gushy! The man's form blinked into existence a few feet behind Kat. Gushy stopped his study of the hand link upon hearing his name and looked around as if he were just registering his surroundings. Dr. Beckett, I've achieved a lock, Ziggy. Keep this hologram as stable as you can. He ran his fingers through the bar. Remarkable. I think a reserved attitude might be better, don't you? Sam snapped his eyes back to Kat. Huh? Oh, yeah, you're right. Reserved is better. I have to use the bathroom. Excuse me. Sam practically ran from the room. You're only human, honey, Kat yelled after him. Next time, don't hold it so long. Gushy flashed in next to him, but Sam kept moving along the short hallway and into the lounge. He wanted as many walls between him and Kat as possible. He could feel some yelling coming on. He'd have taken the conversation out into the chilly evening if he were wearing more than a string bikini. Where in the hell have you been? It's a bit of a long story, Gushy chortled, quickly looking down at the hand link. Ziggy's... More laughter. Ziggy's had some problems and... His words dissolved into a stream of guffaws so strong that he dropped the hand link while clutching his sides. Sam waited. When Gushy finally popped back into view, he was wiping tears from his eyes and breathing heavily. Sorry, Dr. Beckett, he managed. Sorry. What the hell is so funny? Your clothing is rather becoming. Not the habiliments of a quantum physicist, perhaps, but yellow is definitely your color. Okay, that's enough. Sam could feel himself flushing, and it had little to do with anger. He could only imagine what Al would have said. What was it you were saying about Ziggy? We had a glitch in the system. What's the problem? Where's Al? He was called away unexpectedly. Gushy's image blitzed to one side, then snapped back into place. And the problem is being taken care of. How are things progressing on this end? It's customary for you to tell me. Forgive me, Doctor, for being at a slight disadvantage. We've been running the project at minimal capacity for a few days. With everything that's happening, it's lucky that we've been able to contact you at all. You need to bring us up to speed before we can do the same for you. Sam outlined the events that had taken place since he lost Al. Most of his tension drained away as he did so, but an ominous feeling lingered. What kind of glitch could halt contact for so long? Where did Al have to go in such a hurry that he couldn't warn Sam beforehand? He asked Gushy as much when he was finished. It had to do with one of his ex-wives, I think, Gushy said, plugging the information into the hand link. And as for Ziggy, you'd have to ask Tina exactly where the problem was. Something about the hardware, I believe. But it's all fixed now. Wait a minute. First you say the problem is still being taken care of. Then you say it's fixed. Which is it? What's going on back there? I just meant that the problem has been fixed to a point where we can reach you again. As I said, it has to do with the hardware. And nothing else? No. Sam was having trouble buying it. The frustrating part was that he didn't know why. The explanation fit, but a sixth sense told him that things were on the brink of change. He couldn't say what things exactly, but it wasn't a good change. It felt more like he was dangling by one hand, the cliff's edge crumbling from his grip. No computer problem can generate those kind of feelings unless... Catastrophic system failure? Were Ziggy's neuro components breaking down? That could explain the feeling of dread. There was no telling how something like that would affect him. It could strand him permanently in the aura of his host, not a pleasant prospect on this leap. It could just as easily kill him. Without the technological tether linking him to his own time, God or fate or whatever might decree his presence in the past as too anomalous, too messy to fit into the pattern. One thing was for sure. They couldn't repair the system without access to fresh samples of his cells. He would be dead as far as the project was concerned. A disturbing image flashed in his mind. Al on an operating table, part of his skull removed, surgeons frantically gathering the only other cells familiar to Ziggy's matrix, the only other cells with a remote possibility of performing the tasks Sam's had before the whole system went kaput. Sam took a deep breath and banished the mental picture. There was no way things could have gone that far south. Gushy would definitely tell him if the problem was that drastic. Wouldn't he? Of course. Stop being so paranoid. The way Gushy seemed to be hedging, the problem was with the software. And Sam would have a better chance of giving birth again than getting him to admit it. The programmer prided himself on keeping the system bug-free if Sam could trust his Swiss cheese recollection. Gushy faded in and out like a giant white firefly, studiously entering data into the hand link with a "Who? Me?" expression on his face. That had to be the answer. Then why did doom still feel so palpable? Getting something, Gushy said. Here we are. Well, Ziggy says the move for the mayor's office was the right one. It has the highest odds for success. However what? Ziggy says... Gushy's voice fell a few octaves and separated into 4 distinct harmonic patterns before becoming incomprehensible. His image faded completely, and for a long moment, Sam's paranoia didn't feel ridiculous. The election. The voice came from behind Sam, startling him. He turned to face Gushy, who grinned at him. Damn it, Gushy! Stop doing that! What did you say? I said that even though Ziggy is quoting the odds in your favor, records show that Kat will still lose the election. It's odd because all the exit polls pointed to her as the shoo-in. How can that be? The most likely explanation is that Berenger has somehow rigged the election. Sam felt... Albie. Sam felt the sting of the 3 days wasted. All the prepping in the world wasn't going to help Kat if Ziggy was right. He sat down hard on the nearest couch. So no matter what I do to get her ready, she'll still lose? What should I do? Gushy moved next to him, intent on the hand link. He moved to sit down as well, and fell through the couch, landing hard on the imaging chamber's floor. Only the top of his head remained visible above the cushions, his eyes darting back and forth in confusion. It was Sam's turn to laugh. Even Al never made that rookie mistake. Gushy pushed himself up, rubbing the small of his back. A bit tricky getting used to this whole sensation, he said defensively. It's hard to remember that you're not real when I'm standing here talking to you. Sam shook his head. Even if Ziggy made the hologram blink like a neon sign, Gushy would probably still forget it wasn't real. As soon as he focused on one thing, he became oblivious to everything around him. That's what made him such a good programmer and such a lousy social being. Al always went on about how out of touch Gushy was with reality. Sam knew he was actually very in touch with reality, almost ruthlessly so. He just took it one sliver at a time. There has to be some way around Berenger, he said. Come on, what's the best way to beat this thing? Your only chance is to expose him as corrupt. How? Ziggy doesn't know. But the election is only 4 days from now. I don't even know where to begin. Does she have any suggestions? Gushy squinted at the tiny readout. Get! He whacked the hand link. Some traits carried over from observer to observer, apparently. Get what? Evidence that he's fixing it? An informer? Busy. Get busy. That helps. Sam paced in frustration. Any clues as to how? She says to find evidence that he's fixing it, or an informer, Gushy said. I think it's time for you to leave, Gushy, Sam said as calmly as he could through gritted teeth. Gushy looked at him questioningly. I believe there's another matter of concern we need to discuss. Teresa Singer and her brother. You wanted the odds on reconciliation. Ziggy says it may be at least as important as keeping the club open. Last I spoke to Al, Tawny disappears in a couple of weeks. Does that still happen, even with all that's going on? Yes, Gushy coaxed the answer from the small computer. And Kyle never finds her again. This just gets better and better, doesn't it? No matter what I do to help Kat, we still fail. And the 2 people I probably could help want me to mind my own business. Real cinch, this leap. Gushy continued punching the hand link. Dr. Beckett, isn't Kyle Singer an investigative reporter? So he says. Well, may I suggest... Gushy stopped, looking around. He took a breath that Sam could only describe as tentative. He raised an eyebrow and continued. May I suggest that you enlist Kyle's help in exposing this Councilman Behringer? Sam stopped his pacing. That's a thought. If nothing else, he may be able to tell us where to begin. It could also help me get them. Gushy, what's wrong? The programmer held his hands to his throat as if he were choking. Don't. No, he croaked. No. Air. Sam's fears of a moment before came rushing back. Another bug in the system? Gushy was too busy punching in the door code to answer. He was turning as white as his clothes, and his eyes bulged. The handlink's blips and bleeps were distinctively dimmer. Don't worry. Everything okay, he managed before the glowing portal appeared next to him. He gave a quick wave and rushed into the light. The door closed behind him, severing the link. Whether the wave meant it'll be okay or good luck because you'll never see me again, Sam had no way of knowing. He prayed for the former, although the abruptness of the departure made him extremely uneasy. Even if the system was out of air when he first entered the imaging chamber, Gushy still should have had more than enough to last him the short time they were in contact. It was as if the air were being deliberately pumped out. Was system failure turning Ziggy psychotic? He supposed it was possible. If she had a personality, why couldn't she go off the deep end? Even if that was the case, there was nothing he could do. That fact only added to the pall over his feelings. He tried to shake it off. It was past time to do what he could. Maybe he could even kill two birds with one stone. He joined Kat at the bar. Stomach okay, honey? The woman asked, hurriedly putting out her cigarette. You were gone an awful long time. Stomach's fine, Sam replied. It's everything else that's going wrong. Kat looked at him questioningly. What if I told you that Behringer is going to win, no matter how well we do on Tuesday? I'd say you must have had one hell of a trip to the bathroom. All the same, he's rigged the election somehow. Just called a hunch. He seems too calm, too cocky, even for him. How can you be sure? Indulge me. The first thing we have to do is get Tawny down here. We need to find her brother. That jerk? Kat shook her head and walked out the other side of the bar. Get my phone book out of the office. By the time Sam returned, book in hand, a phone was on the bar. Your instincts have been right so far, Kat said as she dialed, so I'm not going to question them now. But I want Tawny? Kat, get your butt down to headquarters and bring that brother of yours. Well, I don't care. Find him. If you don't come now, don't bother coming back at all. She hung up and turned her mischievous look on Sam. And people don't think I have what it takes to be mayor? Ha! What's that you said about finding him? Kat furrowed her brow. Says she hasn't seen him since last Saturday. And after the stink he made, maybe he left town. Good riddance. No, I think we need him to pull this election off. Kyle couldn't be gone. Gushy would have told him if that was the case. But as he thought about it, Sam realized that Tawny had given him advance warning the night of the council meeting. He had been too emotionally wrapped up to hear her. If Kyle hadn't contacted his sister since the night of their confrontation, and he hadn't left town, then what had he been doing for the last week? Honey, the day I need him for anything is the day I'll get into the ring and let you beat me in front of everyone, Kat said. And as you know, I don't take beating easily. Sam hit upon a possible explanation. It was a lot to hope for, maybe too much, but it also made the most sense. Get a taste for humble pie, Sam replied. I have a feeling you'll need it.
Ooh, 13 was good. Great job, Mike.
Thank you.
Love the Gushy voice.
Thanks.
Could you tell us a little bit about that chapter?
I loved all the
Chris?
imagery of Sam in that bikini. All that I was seeing was him in Miss Deep South with the string of all the bikini girls. And it's hilarious.
I kind of got distracted once the word bikini came up.
when I was writing these passages with Sam's Leap, they seemed to me to be a place where I could mine it for humor, because even though I felt like a real leap, something that you might see on the TV show, it's a little bit it's very different from everything else that's going on with the Amory stuff, what's going on back at the project. And sometimes I felt like when I was writing it, it brought the story to a little bit of a lull. I still think I feel that way a little bit. So I tried to infuse it with lore and humor as much as I could so that it would give the fans something else to latch on to besides like an election in a small town that nobody gives a shit about. So that was it. And
some good imagery with Gucci as the hologram as well. And I was visualizing him as the hologram in Killing Time as well, and the image going in and out. And I was so expecting a time and space can be a bitch, but other than that,
I don't even know. You got to remember, Hayden, I had seen most episodes maybe once, twice when I was writing this. So the fact that I remembered as much as I did is astounding to me, because there was VHS that people would, could send me or nothing. I would have to talk to people on the phone and say, who was that name? What was that one? He was trained to who in a hunting wheel ago?
Bulletin boards of VCR. So that's so cool. Oh, I forgot to mention Void War prohibited and not in Pueblo, Colorado, and only in the continental United States. What other asterisks are in there?
Click on the QVC code. Your chance to win.
Albie?
Yes.
Is it all right if I do chapter 14?
Yes, that was my idea, just in case, because I know you're a day and a half ahead of us, so you've been on the stream for.
And I was dying to do some Sammy, Joe, and Al voices, so
all right. Chapter 14 will be you after we remind everyone. Oh, and John joined us.
Hi, John. Bye, John.
Cool. The beautiful John Irons.
Not coming on camera, John?
He's always invited.
John is doing a few things. I think they're having just a hangout with the Infinite Potato Gang, the Cosmic Potato network that he's part of. And I told them I wasn't available tonight, but they'd be welcome to join us on the stream or watch us live. So
any of them.
Hi, everybody over there. John, tell everybody I said hello.
More the merrier. Infinite Potato. We love those guys.
So you should listen to That Star Trek podcast. You should listen to Cosmic Potato, the Super Fan Talk podcast. You should listen to Captain Game Show. You should listen to Moon Show, which Nick hosts. It's all about For All Mankind. And Virginia does Wait You Still Never Seen. She's doing chronological rewatch of River Song's appearances in Doctor Who.
Nice. So, chronological. That's fun.
Yeah. So in River Song order.
That's really cool.
Yeah. So
I like that.
So you should check that out as well. And a lot of good stuff going on over there. So that's Infinite Potato Alliance, and you can just search for any of those shows in your podcatchers. You can also go to the GoFundMe and donate to Matt's family. Again, click on the code, and it will go, or take your phone up to the code and click through to.
No amount is too small. It all adds up. And again, you'll be in the running with donating and commenting and liking and sharing and subscribing and all that stuff to get this, to get a autographed book by Christopher, personal autograph. And also, I think we're giving away QLP mugs if anyone donates over $100 pounds to Matt's GoFundMe. And also, we're taking super chats.
Super chats.
They use kilograms in England, Albie. Not
what?
Pounds. They use kilograms in England.
That's from Red Dwarf. They call it dollar pounds. I think that's a combined currency in the future. I'm not sure. But having money by weight confuses me. So anyway, Hayden, could you please? Oh, there will be call-in laters. If you want to call in later, we'll be taking calls. So check out that link we posted on Facebook, and I'm sure Stacie will post it in the YouTube chat, and just give all you can. We really appreciate it. Hayden, my favorite Australian, that is a male. Because there's a lot of those dancers.
I'll always be second to Margot Robbie, won't I?
Well, Margot Robbie, and then all the Dancing with the Stars Australia ladies.
Your favorite is Courtney Act, isn't it?
I was actually thinking Margot Robbie too. So I think we're in chapter 14, and it's read best in the original Australian.
Yeah, and please do this one, Justice Hayden. It's one of my favorites. It's one of the ones I had most fun writing.
Yay!
Well, I love the Sammy Joe voice, and I love the Al voice, so hopefully you'll have as much fun. All right, chapter 14. You're going to need a hologram, Al. Al nodded and shrugged more securely into the long lab coat, holding it closed in front. Not only did he feel naked, but the damned Fermi suit was bulging in all the wrong places. I know, you're it. Samantha looked up sharply from the console, her face awash in the chaotic color patterns it threw off. Me? Why? What about Gucci? He'll be too busy here. We've never tried to pull off 2 separate leaps at the same time. If there's a problem with the programming, and I can't afford to believe there won't be, then he's the best one to take care of it. The same goes for Tina and the hardware. But put together, they know more about the system than Sam does. Or you. They're too valuable on this end. Babina? We'll have her hands full with 2 visitors. Samantha returned to her study of the main console. Al didn't know if she brought his reasoning or not, nor did he care. The simple fact of the matter was Sammy Joe Fuller's genetic code made her the best candidate for a solid link. Where he was headed, a jumpy hologram could mean the difference between Sam's life and death. He wouldn't take the chance. He couldn't tell her that, of course, not without opening up an entirely different can of worms. He had worked on the excuse since he made the decision to leave. If her ego had been a little bruised because of it, he could live with that. There's something else, Samantha continued. You've been avoiding it. How will we get you back? Dr. Beckett's retrieval formula is for the birds. You know that. I don't know. Al cast his gaze downward. He didn't have an answer during the impromptu committee meeting, and he hadn't come up with one since. Maybe I'll just leave back home. Yeah, and maybe they'll spring my grandmama from Peach Hill. But I doubt either is likely to happen. This is serious, Al. You'll be stranded in time just like Dr. Beckett. If you have another suggestion, I'm all ears. He was met with silence. Look, he said more softly. To be honest, the prospect terrifies me. But if I don't leap and stop this thing, then what? Even though none of us would realize that we were living in an altered reality, I do know my options here and now. If I don't take a shot, Sam will die. And I can't let that happen. So I'll take the risk. When I stop Anne-Marie, we'll sort out the problems after. Sam comes first. Samantha nodded. Looking at it that way, I pity anyone who tries to keep me out of the imaging chamber. You're gonna love it, Al grinned. You can walk through stuff and shoot your mouth off all you want. No one will see or hear you but me. And even if I get sore at you, you won't be able to do anything about it. You should see the games I play with Sam sometimes. He let out a low, desperate laugh. Please, God, don't let it end like this, he thought. He forced a brighter face. Just one thing. When you first establish the link, you might get a little queasy. How so? Ever have one of those sit and spins as a kid? It's a little like that. You'll see what I mean soon enough. But otherwise, it's a real kick in the butt. Maybe that's what's taking Gushy so long. Is he almost done in there? He should be. Rabina briefed him on his options before he left. And now that Ziggy has half a brain again, I don't think he should have many problems. Even so, Al wished things were moving a little faster. He had had enough of this hurry up and wait routine. If they didn't start fishing soon, their bait would be cut for them. He raised his head and projected his voice. Gee, is it morning already? Where did I leave those wire cutters? There's no reason to get cute, Admiral, Ziggy said serenely. Using my half a brain. Her voice dripped with animatronic contempt. I believe I've pinpointed the divergence in the time stream. There is a 97% probability that it occurs in the year 1988 at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. MIT? But Sam left there in 1972. Dr. Beckett finished his studies in 1972, but he's not there as a student. He is attending a dinner being given by Professor Sebastian Lenegro in honor of his Nobel Prize. Professor Lenegro mentioned the upcoming event in an interview with Time magazine. The article appeared in the same issue that named Dr. Beckett the Man of the Year. It is my hypothesis that Anne-Marie Renere obtained a copy of the magazine and is taking advantage of her foreknowledge of Dr. Beckett's location to commit the murder. So where do we go from here? There are many people attending the function, Admiral. I suggest targeting your leap to one of them. But who? I'll need to be able to move quickly. and Dr. Fuller will have to be able to lock onto me straight away. How about campus security? Samantha asked. There's bound to be a few rent-a-cops there. That way you'll be able to go anywhere on campus you may need to. You'll also be able to get backup. That's it, said Al, shrugging the lab coat from his shoulders. It's showtime, Ziggy. Get Gushy out of the imaging chamber. I don't care if you have to pump the oxygen out of there to do it. All right, leap now. Get Tina down here. Sammy Joe, load the targeting program. I want to be head of security at that dinner. Got it? Samantha's fingers moved so furiously that she appeared to be massaging the multicolored unit. Locked and loaded, Admiral. She punched the enter code, moved to the front of the console, and stood erect. Let's do it, Ziggy. Affirmative. A sheet of blue laser light shot from the opposite wall and ran down Samantha's form from head to toe. When it reached the door, it arced up and repeated the process at a different angle. The light swooped up and down, circling the control room as if held by a gymnast in the midst of the trickiest of routines. Three-dimensional imaging complete, Ziggy said as the laser completed its circuit, encoding the data into the imaging chamber's main control interface. The imaging chamber's door opened, and Gushy stumbled down the ramp, rubbing his throat and gulping for air. Al rounded on him. How's Sam? Gushy's first attempt at an answer sounded like a cat choking on a hairball. He let a final hack fly in the Admiral's direction, enveloping Al in a breath that could only have come from deep inside. Well, I'm the one who ordered the air pumped out, thought Al. There's karma for you. He appeared okay, Gushy finally managed. Of course, my perception could be called into question. The link wasn't very strong, and we couldn't talk much. Al cut him off with an exasperated sigh. Is his life in danger? He should know better than to ask the man an open-ended question by now. Gushy was simply incapable of getting to the point quickly. No threats to his life. Does he have things under control? We think so. He's hit a bit of a snag, but you and Ziggy told him the best way to work it out. Al finished for him. As long as he's still breathing and has all the options, that's the best we can do right now. Good work. He knew Gushy had more to say, but it was not something Al could easily ignore. But he also knew he could trust Sam to fly solo for a little longer. Time for anything more was impossible. He turned, signaling the end of the discussion. Tina approached from the opposite direction and went straight into Al's open arms. She kissed him long and hard. Don't get hurt, she said when they were finished, or I'll not kill you. Yeah, he hugged her tight. I'll see you soon, okay? I love you. Although a bit husky, the words came out easier than they ever had. A real hell of a time to find the courage to say them. He let go reluctantly and turned back to Gushy. Al put a hand on the man's shoulder. Gushy reciprocated the gesture. Al wondered if his face was really that easy to read. Just take care of her, okay? Be good to her. Gushy nodded and drew Al into an embrace. I won't have to. You'll be back in no time. Al turned toward the accelerator chamber. Calibrating Dr. Fuller's image to register with Admiral Calavicci's neurons and mesons, Ziggy said. Handlink ready. The control panel in the console spit out a miniature twin that blinked in time. Samantha grabbed it, then stopped Al with a kiss on the cheek. I just wanted to do it while I was still able to, she said in answer to his surprised look. It may take a little while, but I'll get you back, I swear. You'll do what you can, Al said emphatically. That's all anyone can expect for themselves. He held up an admonishing finger. And if I get wind of any more late-night pity parties in the cafeteria, I'll leap back here for the express purpose of tanning your hide. I won't get held responsible for you losing your girlish figure. Got it? Samantha's expression shifted from consternation to hope in the course of Al's diatribe. She grasped his shoulders and shook him, causing her handling to squeal in protest. That's it. You're the one who's got it, Al. Don't go anywhere just yet. She laughed and rushed back to her position behind the main console. Ziggy, access retrieval program AA2634. Al looked on in confusion. Just accept it, will you? Every retrieval program is a dud. We don't have time for more holdups. I leap now. He resumed his trot to the accelerator chamber. Halt, Admiral! Samantha yelled in a voice that stopped Al instantly. His old drill sergeant wouldn't have been able to stand up to that tone. Damn your macho heroism, Hal! I think there's a way. She continued coaxing the control panel as she spoke. That's the one, Ziggy. Load it up. What do you think? Integrating program into my current parameters, Ziggy replied coolly. What the hell is going on here? Al demanded, pacing restlessly. You're right in one respect, Samantha said. Every retrieval program is a dud when we apply them to the problem of getting Dr. Beckett home. But you're not Dr. Beckett. Meaning? The main reason for the retrieval failure up to this point is that we can't get a good enough hold on Dr. Beckett's neuron and meson signature in the time stream. His constant blending with other people over the years has made it impossible. But if we apply my latest program to you, or any fresh leaper, if you will, we may be able to get a fast enough fix to bring you back. Al stopped pacing. He could feel hope attempt to creep in, but he stomped on it. There's one thing you're forgetting. In leaping, as in life, I'm no virgin. That lightning snafu a couple of years ago took care of that. It was an isolated incident, Samantha shot back, and it happened so long ago it may not matter. I wouldn't bet on it. I don't know if it counts as one leap or two, Al went on, trying to recall the sequence of events. It may even be three. It all gets magnifoozled in my mind. The primary memory was of the painful lump on his head. After that, it melted into fuzzy-edged frustration. He ticked off facts in his fingers. First, I had to switch places with Sam. Then I was Tom Jarrett. Then Sam leaped into me, trading places again. And I know for sure that we swapped some marbles during it all. He tapped his temple. There's still a little bit of Sam with me. It's just sort of a feeling that I have that was never there before. Not a very scientific explanation, Al knew, but it was easier than telling him he still heard faint echoes of choir song in the far reaches of his mind. So, isolated incident or not, I wouldn't get my shorts bunched in excitement just yet. I would have to agree with the Admiral on that point, Ziggy said, though I have no shorts to bunch. The current update to the retrieval program gives us, at maximum, a 62% chance of locking onto his neuron and meson pattern. I cannot, however, accurately predict how the timeline divergence will affect these probability estimates. Damn. Samantha pounded her fist on the console. Yeah, I'll take those odds, Al said. They're better than I would have allowed myself to believe. Now let's get moving. Get into the imaging chamber, Gushy. Tina, take over here. He paused only long enough to fix the head programmer with a menacing stare. And Gushy, in light of the new odds, forget what I said before. If you go near her, I'll leap again just to fix it so your mother never meets your father. Here she go. Affirmative. Al ran to the accelerator chamber and punched the security code into the access panel. The rate of his heartbeat rose along with the door, and he entered the room, taking his place on the disc located at center. Ready, Gushy? He shouted. Beginning countdown, came the faint reply. 5, 4. His voice was drowned out by the low hum that filled the octagonal chamber. This is it, Calavici. The panels set at shoulder height in each wall began to glow with energy, casting Al in a mellow blue relief. Atomic wind blew up from the perimeter of the disc, shrouding the chamber in a white fog that surrounded Al and crackled in his ears. 2. The force of the blast doubled, and the low hum rose to a shrieking whine. Al bid farewell to life as he knew it. His hair flew on end, his entire body tingled, and his arms, suddenly very light, rose straight out to either side. Fire! The whine fell to a low rumble that was soon beyond his ability to hear. The atomic energy coursed through him, a roaring whoosh that carried him off in a blinding blue-white flash.
Ooh. So good.
Yay.
Yeah, that's like QL porn right there.
Very good. Chris, tell us about writing that chapter.
Well, back at the project is always fun. And just the fact that I put in the MacGuffin at the beginning to get Al home, that was a big issue that Ginger had with this idea of Al leaping. And I think it was because in Melissa Crandall's book, Al leaps as well, Search and Rescue. And at the end, he just leaps home because they didn't have any kind of. So she said, I'm not going to fall. I'm not going to let that happen again. You have to, if you want Al to leap in this book, you have to figure out a way to get him home that's credible within universe. So I said, all right. And that's why Sammy Joe's first scene was that failed retrieval program. So it was all, it was all baked in from the beginning.
Yeah.
And
it's good too, because in Revenge of the Evil Leaper, Zoe mentions she's got the 48-hour window. So I like that this is kind of the genesis of that.
I don't even know what you're talking about, but I'm glad that what?
Yeah. Well, Zoe leaps and she says to Thames, I'm here on borrowed time. I only have a 48-hour window after my first leap to actually get home.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Yeah.
After
I
that,
figure what you've written here is
drops.
probably where that came from.
Okay. Maybe.
Yeah.
But that's just a sheer coincidence. So
I think it's awesome that Ginger cared enough to care about those kind of things.
Well, I again, this goes back to why this can be so fanny and in the weeds. At this point, the people primarily reading these books were hardcore Quantum Leap fans. So you want to have a suspension of disbelief. And if you're going to break a core tenet of the series, which is we can't retrieve Sam, then you got to figure out, but then how can we credibly retrieve Al and still not be able to retrieve Sam? And that was where I found the
and we're lucky too that in the series they had kind of sprinkled little tidbits here and there of how they were thinking about trying to get Sam home towards the end, like Sammy Joe having the theory on how to get Sam home.
Yeah. So there was that too, and so that also sprang organically from the series. The my favorite bit on this though was just the control room when Ziggy is taking the imaging of Sammy Joe with the laser going all around her body to make the 3D composite of her at that point. So because it occurred to me that some kind of imaging has to be done so that they can have the hologram for Sam to see. Even though I don't know, it seemed like it would be a neat scene to have like Ziggy be more than just an orb that's snarking in the corner, like she's actually acting and helping with the entire process. Right. So, and I just said in my mind's eye, it looked like a really neat scene because the control room is always so flashy and blinky and colorful and everything, and this just kind of fits into that.
I think the very start of the new series had a very similar looking scene when I think Ben was about to leave. They kind of had I'm pretty sure they had an image of like his image being taken from all angles. And
I don't recall that, but it's been a little while. So they took that from me, is what you're saying. I can sue them.
How many more chapters do we have tonight?
I think we just have chapter 15, and let me just double check. And 16. Three more. One is the last one is only like 3 pages long.
Ooh, okay.
Chris, I have a question.
Sure, Stacie.
Where is Donna? Is she not in this timeline?
Oh, you'll see.
Okay.
Spoilers, sweetie. All right. So,
I just wanted to add that I liked when you said that he was maybe leaped twice, maybe 3 times. Are you counting? Were you counting a leap for Lisa with that, where the young Bingo leapt?
No, I was just thinking because he had swapped places with Sam, so I was just trying to figure it out logically in my head, and it was giving me a headache. Matt would have made a whole diagram with recursive lines and flow charts and branch points and but and again, that was me just being as nerdy and as fun as I could to spark discussion, maybe an inner monologue for the fans. Was it 2? Was it 3?
And Al wouldn't know.
It was probably more than 3.
Right. And Al would have no idea because he's all magnafoozled and Swiss cheesed about it anyway. So
well, let's see if we can remember. He finally left with Sam. He left as Bingo.
Yeah, no, but he didn't even think of the Bingo leap in this. This was all the leap back. It was all the leap back.
Right.
Bingo, bango, bango.
Bingo, bango, bango.
But there was also Melissa Crandall's book. So
he didn't leap in. Well, they leapt him. They leapt Bingo in a leap for Lisa. Yeah, but that was Anyway, I completely forgot about that too.
So this was mostly from memory, and because there's
Yeah,
only so
you know
many
why?
VHS that
And
were out at the time, unless they were
because
like home
well,
recorded.
because The Leap Back was my favorite episode, and I had
Mhm.
it on VHS, and I watched it a gazillion times.
Ah,
Like to the point where I could hear the musical cues in my head. And I
Yeah.
was talking to Matt about it. And he's like, me too. And he actually sent me just the musical cues cleaned up with no dialogue. I don't know how he did it, but he did it. You
there are
know?
ways.
Wow.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So
Very cool. So, Damon, you're good for a while now yet?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Okay, cool. Because I think we'll go to Stacie, and then it'll probably be Damon, and then Christopher bringing us home.
Nice.
Okay.
All right,
Yeah.
sound
I was
good?
going to say, Stacie, Donna is mentioned in chapter 1.
Is she?
Yeah, so
forget.
she exists.
Okay.
It's been 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Well, I
Or
started
two.
at chapter 1 tonight and the program.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
Very cool. Very cool. And
Had to
remember
catch up.
why we're here. We're helping the GoFundMe for Matt Dale. So scan that QR code, follow the links in the chats or the posts, or just Google GoFundMe Matt Dale, and it'll come up and give what you can.
All right.
All right. So that's why we're here, because we love Matt. All right, Stacie, anytime you're ready.
All right.
Chapter 15.
Chapter 15.
Thank you.
Sam's coffee steamed in the chilly morning air, but he didn't need it to wake up. Anticipation already had his nerves jangling like harp strings. He chewed impatiently at the rim of his styrofoam cup. I still don't understand why I have to be here, Tawny said. Sam knew her cranky tone had little to do with being up early on a Saturday morning. Whatever's going on is between you and him. Unless you come, the deal's off, Sam replied. He made that very clear in our conversation last night. Please don't ruin this for me, Kat paced in front of the club. They had been waiting less than 10 minutes, but she was already on her third cigarette. Much as I hate to admit it, he might be onto something big. I need him. The words sounded smoother than Sam would have expected. Kat threw the cigarette down, and another immediately found its way between her lips. I know the last thing you want is to see him, but consider it as a favor to Richard and me. I didn't know I owed you any. Really? Who set you up with a security deposit on your apartment when you first got to town? And we didn't know if you'd stay more than a week. Kat's agitation was turning to ire. If you want to be a little bitch, do it on your own time. For now, you owe me. So suck it up and deal. Tawny opened her mouth to reply, but Sam cut her off. That's enough, you two. We have plenty to worry about without snapping at each other. So, we'll take it for granted that you both apologize and chalk it up to a long night. Both women studied the ground, scowling. Sam resumed his gnawing and hoped Kyle arrived soon. It had been a long night. Tawny hadn't gotten to the club until almost 11, and she was alone, claiming that she couldn't find Kyle. Sam didn't know whether to be happy about that or not. When they finally reached him at his hotel at about 1:30, Sam's hope became a bit more concrete. Not only was the reporter glad to hear from them, but he said he needed some help. Help with exactly what, he wouldn't say, but it had to do with Behringer. He suggested they meet in the morning and discuss it. So early Saturday found them waiting and wondering in the icy November air. Sam didn't know, excuse me. Sam didn't know what Kyle had in mind, but for the first time in a week, he felt he was actively working towards a leap out. He hoped the momentum wouldn't be cut short yet again. All three heads turned at the sound of crunching gravel. A small orange car pulled into the lot. That's him, Tawny said. Kyle pulled alongside them and rolled down the window. Good morning, ladies. Teresa. Still driving the ugly mobile, I see. We haven't won the lottery since you took off, Kyle replied. Shall we? Sam opened the back door and slid in. Kat pitched her cigarette and followed. Tawny stood in the lot until Kyle reached across the front seat and opened the passenger's door from the inside. Still haven't gotten around to fixing that either, huh? She sat down and slammed the door. Kyle put the car in gear and pulled away. I've had my hands full. The reply implied volumes. Tawny looked at the scenery, pointedly ignoring her brother. A stony silence descended. Sam purposely didn't break it. Despite his desire to know what Kyle was up to, part of his job was getting them to talk to each other. If that meant letting things fester until one of the siblings exploded, so be it. No one said the first step toward communication had to be pretty. Geez, I've been in livelier funeral processions, Kat said. Now what's the story here? Where are we going? Town Hall. Kyle shifted his focus to the rearview mirror as he spoke to them. As for the story, I haven't exactly nailed it down. That's what I need you for. I knew it, Sam exclaimed. You're doing an investigative piece, aren't you? That's why you've been too busy to do what you came here to do. Smart and lethal. Not a bad combination. Sarah, was it? Tawny uttered a low laugh. Just figures. What the hell's that supposed to mean? Kyle snapped. Never mind. What's at Town Hall? Kat insisted. Either she was oblivious to the unspoken argument or didn't care about it. Sam suspected the latter. And why do you need us? I have to get hold of some records, and I've been having a problem. I think the woman in charge suspects that I suspect something. Every time I ask for the things I want, they seem to be in use, or conveniently misplaced. What kind of records? Sam's curiosity was piqued. They're the last pieces of a complicated puzzle, Kyle paused. If the way his eyes shifted from the mirror to the road and back was any indication, he was in the midst of some internal debate. You still haven't answered my question, Kat said irritably. How do we fit into all this? Look, Kyle finally managed. I wish I could tell you more, but I promised a friend that I wouldn't reveal anything until I got my hands on some solid proof. It's not that I don't trust you. It's just a professional code I have to live by. My word means everything in my job, and I can't break it. Not for any reason. What I can tell you is that by helping me, you'll be helping yourself. I told you. Sam snatched the unlit cigarette out of Kat's hand and threw it out the window. Behringer's fixing the election. How else could it involve us? Kat closed the pack and threw it into her purse. Is that it? Kyle remained silent. What makes you think we can get this woman to be any more accommodating to us than she's been to you? Sam asked. She's bound to get suspicious if we ask for the same information that you were, especially if she sees Kat. Kat won't be dealing with her, Kyle replied. I will. And Teresa. Kat will provide a distraction. It's your job to get what we need. Me? Kyle nodded and turned the car onto Main Street. You're the best choice. No one will give you a second look. I have a mole waiting on the inside. A what? Someone who's on our team. They'll be waiting for you. How will I know who it is? Don't worry, they'll find you. Kyle pulled into the parking spot in front of Town Hall. They should be the only unoccupied person there. And what am I supposed to do? Kat asked. Just be your usual flamboyant self, Kyle said with a smile. Feel up to being the center of attention? Always, just point me in the right direction. Kyle outlined his strategy. Sam was intrigued. He even got to use a secret password. It sounds okay, Sam said to the reporter, but what if it doesn't work? Kyle fingered the faint bruise under his eye. Then I'm counting on you to fight our way out. Kyle escorted his sister up the granite steps and into the building. He turned to take a last look at Kat and Sarah waiting in the car, then nodded at Sarah's thumbs up and let the door close behind him. Once inside, Kyle detoured into the emergency stairwell and halted. He had told the others to give him 20 minutes before coming in. It would only take about 5 minutes to create the diversion. It was time to do what he had really come to this town to do. The fire door clicked shut with an echoing thud that filled the hollow space. Noticing that he wasn't following, Teresa stopped descending the steps and turned. Well? Why, Teresa? Why did you leave? If you don't know, then we have nothing to talk about. Yes, we do. He sat on the bottom step and patted one above him. I didn't come here to have a heart-to-heart, dear brother, she said sarcastically. Now, are we going to do this thing? Kyle swallowed his response. We have plenty of time, he said. Truth is, I didn't need your help with any of this, but insisting that you come along was the only way I could think of to get you to talk with me. One of your reporter tricks? An undercover sting operation? Ambush interview, actually, he replied, indicating the step once again. No demands this time. I just want to hear your side of it all. Now please, sit. The clock is ticking. Since when do you care? What kind of stupid question is that? I care. I always have, even though you don't believe it for some reason. Why do you think I've been traipsing around looking for you all this time? Because you're sick of doing your own laundry? You miss the cheap maid service? Wait, no, let me guess again. Dad started shitting himself and you need someone to change his diapers. Knock it off. Controlling his temperature was becoming difficult, but he would not let this degenerate into a shouting match. Now either you sit and talk to me or I get up and leave. If I do that, you'll never be bothered by me again. Of course, your friend will never have a shot at becoming mayor either. So it's your call. I don't want it to come down to this, but you're so damn stubborn. I'm stubborn? You're the most obstinate person I've ever met. She sat down to get a better vantage from which to yell at him. It was a small victory, but it was a start. You've been that way since we were kids. You get an idea in your head on how things should be, then you expect reality to conform to it. That's ridiculous. Maybe I'm just more realistic than you are, and things seem to have worked out okay so far. Sure, for you. What about me? Last I saw, you were running away from your responsibilities and the two people in the world who really love you. But now that I see what you gave it up for, stuff it. She tried to stand, but he grabbed her wrist. Come on, mud wrestling? Hell of a way to take charge of your own life. You couldn't find something respectable at least? It's not like I'm a whore, Tawny twisted from his grip, but remained seated. And it's good money. I bet I make more in a good night than you do in a week at that precious job of yours. And the hours are better. I figure if I stay at it another year, I'll have enough saved up to really do something. Take a couple of classes, maybe. That's an option I wouldn't have had at home, wherever that happens to be at the moment. What? What the hell do you think I'm knocking myself out for? Eventually, I'll get a good enough job and put the family back on its feet again. Then you'll be able to have whatever you want. When you decide it's time, don't do me any favors. Face it, you're not doing this for me anyway. You're doing it for Mom. She's dead. But let's say you're really sincere. You're such a damn perfectionist that no job will ever be the right one. It'll always be wait. Before you know it, I'll be 35 and working in some supermarket in West Tree Trunk, Iowa, with nothing to look forward to but the next stop you'll make, assuming you haven't burned out by then. That's not how it'll be, and you know it. Kyle shook his head in frustration. I swear you're being purposely difficult. And you're being a selfish prick. When she stopped this time, he didn't prevent it. How dare she? Why don't you just tell the truth? I was right about Dad, and you only want me to come back so you don't have to deal with the hassles anymore. I admit you were right about him, okay? Happy. But tell me how I was supposed to know when he kept it from me. He glanced at his watch. They had to get moving soon. 5 minutes tops. This was not going at all the way he pictured it would. The man just lost his wife, for God's sake. He was lost. Don't give me that. He's a grown man. There's a time to let go of grief. He should have done it long ago. He has. In a way, your leaving was the best thing that could have happened to him. He snapped out of it pretty quick when he ran out of clean underwear. But now it's time for us to be a family again. He misses you. And so do I. He stood to face her. I know you're right about my perfectionism. Sometimes I wish I could be different. Let go a little. But it's hard. Tawny sighed. I'm afraid it'll be too hard. All I have to say is I'm willing to try. Meet me halfway? He could tell by the way her eyes softened that he was beginning to reach her. I'll think about it. He nodded. I suppose that's all I could ask for. Let's get moving. They went up the stairs and found the Hall of Records. Kyle directed his sister to an adjoining room and sat her down at one of the microfilm stations. Stay here, I'll be right back. He walked into the main area and located his target. He decided that the scowl on her face must be a trick of genetics. No one could be in such a bad mood all the time. Lois, how are you today? He wore his most sincere grin. The clerk stopped what she was doing at the sound of his voice and looked up. You again, Mr. Singer. She raised an eyebrow. I expect you're here to make the usual request? Kyle shook his head. Maybe later. Right now I'm working on something different. Can you help me find some newspaper clippings? Since we've had some problems trying to get the documents for my original story idea, my editor wants a sidebar featuring Wilson's political history. I need to do some research. The clerk jerked her head toward the room where he had left his sister. Over there. She emerged from behind the counter and addressed the others who remained. I have to assist this gentleman in the microfilm room students. If you have any problems, I'll be inside. Did you call them students? Kyle asked on the short walk back. Lois nodded. Part of the advanced classes in high school, civics courses or community affairs or some such. They're best and brightest, her voice dripped with contempt, are assigned to volunteer at places run by the town. It's supposed to give them first-hand experience at how municipal systems really works. She snorted. They just get underfoot mostly. They're here only so they can pass their classes. Really? Kyle asked in an innocent tone. It's pretty interesting, but I know how you feel. My editor signed a student intern to work with me today. She means well, but I don't think she has what it takes to make it as a reporter. He steered the woman towards where he had left Teresa. I'm just glad that you're working together. Maybe we can prevent her from doing too much damage. Oh, you can be sure of that, Mr. Singer, Lois replied. I'll watch her like a hawk. That's exactly what I'm counting on, my dear. Kyle made the introductions. Teresa played the part of a wide-eyed youth to the hilt. We need a lot of stuff, Kyle said apologetically. My editor wants a retrospective of all the mayoral elections for the last 50 years. We want to focus on the attitude of the electorate from the Cold War to the present. A bit too detailed for a runaround, maybe. But he was dealing with a meticulous person. Do your records go back that far? Lois nodded. If he didn't know better, he would have called the gesture enthusiastic. They certainly do. And if you want some human input, I've been in this town for most of those elections. Kyle laughed. The lure of the spotlight never failed. Lois, that would be invaluable. The clerk was off, somber skirt, a flurry. Kyle waited until she was out of sight before speaking. You know what to do? Teresa gave a nod and smiled. You really know your stuff, don't you? Just part of the job, he replied. If you don't get over on people, you'll get nowhere. Lois was back in a blink, carrying a load of small boxes. There are some from right after the war, World War II, I mean. Terrific, Kyle said. What do you say we get my sister set up, and then you and I can talk? Sure. She produced a roll of microfilm from one of the boxes and moved to Teresa's side. Have you ever used one of these machines, dear? It's very simple. She threaded the celluloid strip. The image shows up on the screen. This button's to go forward, this one to go back. Got it? Teresa nodded. I think so, like this. She pressed the rewind button, backing the film out of the machine. No, wait, I meant this one. She hit the forward button. No, Lois yelled, but it was too late. The film shot forward, past the take-up reel, and onto the floor in a pile. Just look what you've done now, she shot Kyle an exasperated look, and was on her knees gathering film. Kyle looked back, rolling his eyes with an equally exasperated, see what we have to put up with expression on his face. Teresa was beside the woman in an instant, all apologies, complicating things as much as she could. Kyle glanced at his watch. Perfect timing. Strike one, he thought. Now for 2 and 3. Sam and Kat glanced into the records room. There was no sign of the older woman Kyle had described. When they heard a strangled cry from the adjacent room, Sam knew it was time. Kat nodded and walked into the main area. Listen up, people, she said in a commanding tone. I need some help here. She cornered 3 kids who suddenly didn't look so bored. You, get me the town's business statuses. You, I want to see the petition guaranteeing my place on the election ballot. And you, get me the charter outlining the duties of town mayor. The kids looked on, shell-shocked. Move it! All 3 disappeared. Kat waved Sam in without looking. Sam entered the room and looked for the one person who should be remaining. A girl stood behind a counter on the right side of the room. She was just hitting 17, and her dark brown hair was pulled back from her forehead in a red headband, just as Kyle described. It had to be her. He leaned on the counter. Nevenka sent me, he said. She said I should talk to Allison Wadawa.
It's Wadawa.
Craigler?
Wadawa. Allison Wadawa is a real person. I have a story about that when this chapter's over.
Wadawa.
Yeah.
The girl finished for him. Like the place in Canada, just with a W. I'm Allison. She motioned for him to come behind the counter, this way. She walked toward the back. Sam gave the room a final scan and followed. Allison halted in a far corner and withdrew a manila folder from behind the filing cabinet. She held it out to Sam. I think this is everything your friend asked for, she said. It was a little tricky getting it all without Lois seeing. A mischievous glint lit her brown eyes. But it was kind of fun, too. I hope it's all okay. Sam leafed through the documents, his heart racing. He really had no idea what Kyle needed, but he was sure the reporter would have been specific. They're just fine, he said, the words followed by a sudden laugh. The odds for a successful leap might finally be tipping in his favor. Thank you. You'll never know how much was riding on this. I probably owe you my life. Yeah, well, I owe you my A+. I have a feeling my journalism teacher is going to be impressed with my investigative work. You want to be a reporter? Allison shrugged with the blend of confidence and indifference common to teenagers. Maybe. The course is pretty interesting, and it's a jobs like this all the time. Allison, where are you? The stern female voice was very near. That's Lois, Allison said. I think it's time for you to get out of here. She led Sam to a back exit. Just go through there. The stairway leads to the parking lot out back. You'll be okay? Allison chuckled. If I can't handle Lois, then I deserve whatever's coming to me. Take off. Sam gave her shoulder a squeeze and found the stairs. He was outside a moment later, walking through the alley to the front of the building. He went outside a moment later, walking through the alley to the front of the building, affecting the air of someone who belonged there. Kyle and the rest were waiting almost a block away, car running. Sam got in and they pulled off. Did you get it? Kyle looked at him expectantly in the rearview mirror. Sam held the folder up. Got it. Kyle let out a whoop and turned the car toward the club. I got worried for a minute there. I thought that old bat was going to have a conniption with the way Teresa was screwing things up. He squeezed her knee. Good job, sis. Instead of looking out the window, Sam noticed Tawny smiled and squeezed her brother's hand back. He didn't know what it meant, but it was definitely a positive development. He prayed his turn of good luck wasn't just an illusion. I just wish you could have seen her when she spotted me, Kat said. She got even more frantic. Oh, those poor kids. She ran through every one of them, checking out what they were getting for me. Seeing I had nothing you wanted threw her off the scent, I think. She made a grab for the folder. Now let's see what the hell this is all about. Kyle snatched it. Sorry, I still can't fill you in yet. Just when I think you're not such an asshole after all, you proved me wrong, Kat barked. I think we have a right to know, after what we did for you. Well, I'm a big proponent of everyone's right to know, but I still have to clear it with my source. He saw the annoyed looks all around him, even from Sam. I'm sure they'll say it's fine to clue you in, but I have to make sure. Don't worry, your answers are only a phone call away. Can you at least tell us if it'll help us get around Behringer's roadblock? Sam asked. Darling, if I have everything here that I think I do, you'll be able to run right through it.
Nice.
Ooh.
Great job, Stacie. I think
I always
going to get a
really I always find it a little bit difficult keeping track of when perspectives change in books. It's something that I think works a lot better on screen than on the page. It's nothing against the writers or anything, but it just going from Sam's perspective to what's his name?
Kyle.
Kyle's perspective.
That's why there's
it's just difficult kind of visualizing when you got to read it rather than it happening right in front of you. But I don't know if any other way that it could be done though. But, yeah.
Well, that's why if you look at the top of 159, there are those three dots because it was down at the bottom of the page when they couldn't have a space to indicate that the point of view was changing. And then there's another one further on when Kyle and Tony are in the microfiche room on 163, and then it switches back to Sam's point of view with the space.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. It's just I always find it difficult to deal with. That's just might just be me. But I think that it works a lot better on the screen because, like, we see the change of perspective in every episode when we see the person seeing Sam talk to himself, essentially, instead of where there's no Al there.
So yeah, I mean, that scene was inspired by something my father-in-law once told me, which will be revealed once Kyle shows them what's in the envelope. Or does he? I don't know.
Spoiler.
The girl, Allison Wadawa. I made her so basically, if you remember back in like chapter 2 or 3, when they had the altercation at the club and Kyle met his friend, the reporter, Nancy, who he had gone to journalism school with. That's my friend Nancy, Nevenka. And so I based the character on her because she and I did a lot of stories together. We were really good friends. And then at Eastleap, one of the Eastleaps, they auctioned off someone's name being in the book, like basically auctioned off a part in the Quantum Leap books. And this girl, Allison Wadawa, she was a young girl. She was probably about 14, 15 at the time. She was probably going to be about 17 by the time the book came out. She was thrilled. She won it. And, her mom got it for her as like a birthday present or something.
Oh.
So I was obligated to put her in the book somehow.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, well, if I have to add a character, why not make it a real character? Why not just, do you want fries with that? Let's make it so that, she's integral to the plot somehow. Sure. And then I could also link her to my friend Nevenka, because when he said Nevenka sent me, I hadn't mentioned that Nevenka is Nancy's full name. My friend Nevenka, I call her Nevenka, but a lot of her friends call her Nancy because that's just like the Americanization of it. So that'll come out later too. So that was Sam's, secret word Nevenka sent me. I don't even at this point think he knows it's a name, but
it's turtle time.
Yeah.
Exactly. So maybe that's where they got Allison Augustine's middle name from.
Maybe it was Allison Wadawa the whole time.
Foreknowledge. You never know.
Yeah. Isn't it funny though? Our friend Allison now lives in Canada, and Wadawa is just like Ottawa with a W. So
that's crazy. Maybe she'll make the next book.
Maybe.
there has to be a character named Serenity in the next book.
Maybe. We'll see.
Okay.
Or maybe a ship. So everybody go QR code.
Scan it with your phone. Click the link in the chat or the post or the link down below if this is not live while you're watching it. And donate anything you can. Nothing is too small or too large. So, hey, Chris, I had a question. Could we put the new logo if some people are interested in that on the mug?
Yeah, we could put any logo you want. We have the logo of the gummy bear hand link and the classic QL, like the Swiss cheese font. And we also have the logo with the hockey puck hand link, as we've dubbed it on this show.
Right.
And the new QL font, which is basically like the same font as the chapter headings here.
Yeah. And it's the logo that comes up at the beginning of the edited ones of these.
Yeah, I don't,
because I know there's some people that are just like new series fans, and they're not as much classic series fans. They're out there.
Looking to see if I have any of the new logo swag around here, but I don't have it to hand. So,
all right.
But anyway, we could put any logo you want. We could put both if you want.
Both.
Ooh.
Both. Even better. All right. So make sure you go and donate. You can even Google Matt Dale GoFundMe. And if you donate over $100 randomly, you might get a gift from us of a mug.
Randomly.
Remember, anyone who is participating in this whole thing gets a chance to get a inscribed copy, personally autographed by Christopher DeFilippis.
Oh, I'm so jealous of Damon. This is such an exciting chapter that he's going to get to read.
Damon is such a good reader. I'm looking forward to this.
Well,
and all of you guys are. I'm very smart not to participate in that part of it.
If I sound a little nasally, it's because I'm have a little bit of a cold. So.
Oh, you sound great. You got good equipment. Okay. It sounds like.
All right. All right, we're ready.
Thank you, Damon. Yes, anytime.
All right. Okay.
Chapter 16.
Chapter 16. Reality crashed back together one molecule at a time, and Al blinked away the afterimage of eternity. The first thing that struck him was that his shoes were too tight. He had traversed time and space straight to an agony of snug leather and throbbing toes. Sam was right. God or fate or time or whatever did have an odd sense of humor. Hello, are you still there, honey? The voice came from a receiver pressed against his ear. He held it at arm's length and stared at it before fully realizing that he was in the middle of a conversation. He brought it back. I'm here. Which outfit was it you wanted me to wear tonight? The voice on the other end wasn't entirely unpleasant and had an expectant quality. The tone made Al wish he had leaped in about a minute ago, or a few hours from now. Surprise me. Got it. I'll see you later. Yeah, I wish. See you later. The receiver clicked down on the other end, and Al stood, staring down at dirty brown tiles in what looked like a vestibule of some kind, wondering what it was he would be missing. Oh, boy. A low rumble erupted from behind, and he turned around to face it. A sheet of brilliant white light rose to greet him, and Sammy Joe stepped out. Damn it, Ziggy! Don't tell me we're having problems already. Her image reminded Al of a time before satellites and cable television. Admiral, am I getting through? Barely. What's wrong with the transmission? Samantha looked up from the hand link. It's the... She looked questioningly at his shoulder. What's going on? Al followed her gaze and realized that he was still holding the receiver at half-mast. Its cord dangled at his hip, ending in a tangle of twisted wires. Geez, I leaped into a conversation and was about to hang up when you got here. I guess I was more startled than I realized. He hung the useless unit back on its cradle. What's wrong with you? Is the programming going caca on us again? It has nothing to do with the programming. Samantha poked at the hand link as if she was trying to jar it awake. Time itself is playing tricks with us, near as I can tell. Ziggy says we're so close to the focal point of the altered timeline that getting a firm fix will be next to impossible. Al was glad he had chosen Samantha as his observer. Had it been anyone else, he'd probably be on his own. Well, at least we hit the target. He looked down at his clothes. Besides the tight shoes, he was wearing a non-regulation uniform. Both targets, he amended, taking stock of his surroundings. On his right were doors leading into the drizzly night. He went left into a familiar-looking lobby, drawing the walkie-talkie from his belt. Samantha followed, flinching when the closing glass door passed through her. Al felt a sense of deja vu, but couldn't figure out why. He had stood in this exact spot before. Kissing a girl? Of course, he thought, remembering dark eyes and even darker locks of hair entwined in his fingers. It was the place where he had first met that Lithuanian exchange student, Danessa. This is the Stratton Center at MIT. It's the student union. He pressed down on the lever and held the walkie-talkie to his lips. All stations report. A hiss of static was his only reply. All units, come in. He tried again. This time the static lasted only a moment. Dispatch, identify. This is... He looked down at his name tag. This is Morgan over at Stratton. What's the problem, Morgan? Having trouble handling those astrophysicist thugs by yourself? Say the word and I'll call in the SWAT squad. Damn, that could only mean he was working alone. No, call off the dogs. Things are just as exciting as you might expect. Just doing an equipment check. Morgan out. He didn't want to raise the alarm unless he had to. Lord knew what original histories he might disrupt by jumping the gun. Help was available if he needed it. That would do for the moment. Well, our dinner party's around here somewhere. Samantha shook the hand link. Boy, is this thing a pain in the ass. Hasn't anyone ever thought to redesign it? I think we did once already, Al said, trying to retrieve what hole-punch memories remained of his alma mater. Didn't help one bit. He trotted the perimeter of the lobby. I know there's a stairway around here that leads to a ballroom. Ziggy, reposition me. Samantha's holographic image vanished and reappeared across the vast area. This way, Al. You take the long way. I'll see if Ziggy can center me on Dr. Beckett. She was gone in a blink. Al took the steps down 2 at a time, each thud redefining his concept of pain. The sign greeting him at the bottom, Beckett Roast, was illustrated with a cartoon Sam spitted over fire, apple in mouth. He chuckled at it despite his urgency. It had a familiar feel. He went in the direction the arrow pointed and soon found himself outside a large set of closed double doors. A blow-up of the time cover was displayed on an easel in the lobby, vandalized almost beyond recognition. Sam's smile was missing a few teeth, and he sported glasses, horns, and a goatee. It gave Al some apprehension until he saw the sign on top that read, Booby Prize. Not Anne-Marie's work, then. Just some good-natured ribbon to go along with the roast. Scrawled over it all was an inscription in handwriting that Al recognized. All the best, Sam Beckett. Let's hope it stays that way, buddy, Al said to the photo. He checked his impulse to dash into the ballroom. Things were obviously still okay considering how quiet it was. Think like an assassin, Calavici. Another memory fell into place and he looked for a side door. The banquet room doubled as an amphitheater for some lesser student productions, in some of which he had had a part. There were catwalks and back corridors running the perimeter of the high ceiling that gave access from above. He had gotten to know the Warren of Nooks and Crannies intimately during a production of Cyrano in his junior year. Danessa had given him Lithuanian lessons that had nothing to do with speech. Anyone looking for a good perch could find it there. Oh, shit! The door had been forced. Slivers of wood fell away from the latch as he pulled it open and rushed up the stairs. He made his way through the irregular darkness, halting in the swaths of light coming from the openings to the ballroom, purposely leaving his flashlight off. He would need surprise on his side. A quick look down into the vast room told him that his original assumption was correct. The light conversation and laughter were interrupted only by the clinking of champagne glasses. His rush didn't give him time to spot Sam in the crowd, but he could see the head table clearly. If Anne-Marie was up here and had positioned herself directly opposite, a few turns in the corridor would bring him right to her. He moved quickly and quietly down the curving path. The last turn loomed ahead, and he stopped in a patch of darkness, slowing his breath. God willing, this might turn out to be easier than he thought. He reached for his gun and realized campus security didn't carry. Damn! He felt around frantically. Besides the walkie-talkie and flashlight, the only other thing hanging from his belt was a billy club. He drew it up by the handle, twirling the tip to the crook of his elbow. A roundhouse swing would do nicely, but he would have to pounce if he was going to beat a bullet. He steeled himself, body tense. Draw a breath. Hold. 1, 2, 3. He jumped around the corner, his momentum carrying him through the empty space to the floor. He landed hard on his knee with an audible crack, and his breath came out in a curse. She wasn't there. He looked out into the ballroom to check his position. The head table lay below, directly across from him. If she was going to shoot Sam and get away with it, this was the only logical place. Then again, maybe rationality wasn't her strong suit. He moved to get up, but stopped in mid-push. His hand pressed against something wet on the floor. He pulled it up and studied it in the diffused light. A leaf. What better calling card for someone who'd been out on a rainy November night? But where the hell was she? Al was on his feet, running as fast as his damaged knee would allow, to the only other place she could have gone. Instead of doubling back, he continued in his original direction, completing the circuit of the shadowy corridor around the vast room. The jog was incident-free, increasing his fears. What could she be planning? How close did she intend to get? He came to another set of steps and barreled down, emerging on the opposite side of the ballroom from where he began. He remembered that this back corridor led to some storage and utility areas. Beyond was the emergency exit. Odds were she hadn't gone out that way. An alarm would have sounded. Al slipped into the ballroom. He shadowed the perimeter as discreetly as he could, studying the clusters of people he passed. Sam wasn't among them. He didn't spot Anne-Marie either. He stifled the panic that was rising. It was a big room. He would find one or the other. Face after unfamiliar face greeted him all the way to the potted palm at one corner of the head table. Nothing. And there was nowhere else to go. He eyed the few people sitting on the long dais. A woman in a green dress gave him pause. No, not Anne-Marie, but he knew her. One of his old professors, maybe? A bit too young, admittedly. A sudden squeal at his side startled him out of his study. Muriel, I've located... The fuzzy shape flashed out as quickly as it had appeared. Sammy Joe? What's happening? Her image faded back, voice garbled. Rose office. She's on her way there. And... She was gone again. He waited a few beats, but she didn't return. Time was getting dangerously short. What had she said about an office? Rose's office. He went cold. La Negro's office. Anne-Marie was going to La Negro's office. That's where the murder was going to happen. He must have leaped in just as Anne-Marie left the building. She had probably passed right behind Morgan on her way out, for Christ's sake. Think. Where are the physics department offices? He recalled the nuclear accelerator lab. No, too far, all the way across the tracks. Nor was it a walk Sam and Sebastian would likely take on a blustery night. Where then? It was a total blank. Damn his Swiss cheese brain. He had to get moving. Maybe going outside would do him some good, jog his memory. He turned to leave, but a shrill beep drew his attention back to the main table. Sammy Joe? The beep resounded, and Al looked around expectantly, but the observer was nowhere to be seen. The woman in green provided the only motion, fishing her purse out from underneath her seat. With some rummaging, she finally produced the culprit. The beeper in her palm continued its annoying song until she slapped it down on the table with a frown. Al ran out the door with little idea of what to do besides keep moving. He took the blind turn toward the stairs at full speed and collided with the black and white mass that suddenly appeared in front of him, going down in a jarring tangle of arms and legs. He rolled onto his back, wind gone, grasping his aching knee. He fought his way to a kneel and leaned over a man in a tuxedo who lay jumbled on the carpet next to him. "Can you possibly make this any harder?" he yelled in an upward direction. He turned the man over and fell back in shock. "You!" He had collided with himself. "What? Where's my cigar?" His past incarnation fumbled one hand on the carpet and cradled his head in the other. "Why don't you watch where you're going, numbnuts?" He fixed a bleary stare on Al, his breath a sickening mixture of cigar stink and bourbon. His moving hand lighted on the smoldering stogie and put it back into his mouth. Al felt as if the world had turned inside out. Years of forgotten shame, bitter hopelessness came back to him, their presence a sudden crushing weight. It wasn't the first time he had been confronted with an earlier version of himself, but it was not something you easily got used to. And this wasn't the bright-eyed, physically fit bingo of yore, with his whole life ahead of him either. Al studied the rumpled tux, the 3 days' worth of whisker stubble, the alcoholic sway, finally stopping on the bloodshot eyes. The sight repulsed him. "I'm talking to you, nozzle. What the hell is it with you people tonight? You could have killed me." The drunk's nasty tone grated in his ears, turning Al's shock into anger. Rage crept in last, overcoming it all. "Killed you? I would have been doing you a favor. I doubt you would have felt it anyway. How long you been on this bender? 3, 4 days?" He let out a disgusted chuckle. "It's one of the most important nights of your best friend's life, your only friend in the world at this point, and you don't respect him or yourself enough to show up sober. Who are you?" His double groused, suppressing a belch. He retrieved a flask from his jacket and unscrewed the top. "What the hell are you talking about?" Al knocked the flask down the corridor, its amber liquid arching through the air, and grabbed himself by the shabby lapels. "You know exactly what I'm talking about, you pathetic little drunk." Demons he thought he had conquered long ago cavorted in the double's bloodshot stare, and he fought the urge to throttle the man. Memories of the evening were falling mercilessly into place. He couldn't remember exactly what he had said while stumbling around in front of the podium, but it was enough to cast a pall on the rest of the evening. "Sam is the only person left who hasn't turned his back on you. And you're going to let him down tonight because you're too sick and too selfish to think about anything but your next drink." "I don't know who you think you are, but..." "Shut up," Al bellowed. "I've wasted enough of my life on you already. I don't have the time to start again. So here's your shot of redemption, your chance to give a little back. Where's Lenegro's office?" "What? Sebastian Lenegro's office, the physics department. I know you know him, so dig down into whatever brain cells might still be alive. You're not going to win, damn you. You hear me? Now which building?" "Eastman, I think," the doppelganger replied. "Eastman Labs in the engineering center. It's right across the street. Eastman, that's it." He let go and stood, looking down at himself. "Who are you?" the drunk asked. "Someone who knows exactly what you're going through," Al said more softly, "but refuses to pity you because of it." He turned to go, but stopped. "One last thing. It's something I've always wished I'd realized sooner instead of later, so listen. She's gone. She's gone for good. And you're not going to find her in the bottom of any bottle. The sooner you get that through your sorry skull, the easier it will be. Trust me." He started up the stairs, resisting the urge to look back. He couldn't decide if he wanted to cry or vomit. Maybe he had changed the original history of this horrible evening. That would be something anyway. He would probably never know for sure and had nothing to do with the side effects of the leap. His memory of the latter half of the 1980s was mostly a sickening blur of embarrassments between alcohol-induced blackouts. Of course, none of it would matter unless he got to Anne-Marie before she got to Sam. He hobbled up the last few steps, putting almost all of his weight on the banister. His knee was swelling, each bend meeting with a stronger protest. He ignored the pain and focused on Sam. The thought carried him across the lobby and into the rain-swept night. I almost started crying during that.
Did you?
Yeah, almost.
Well, good,
Wow.
I guess.
It's getting really good.
Wow.
Very nice.
Yeah.
So that's another thing that I don't think, had this come earlier in the run, I would have been allowed to put in. Maybe I would have. I don't know. I don't know. But again, you see where it sort of gets into these. If you don't know Al's backstory, you have no idea what this exchange is about. So,
yeah,
it presupposes a deep knowledge of the series.
So
Yeah.
that was really good.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was fun to write. I don't know if there's a ballroom in the student union. I know, I think I looked up the names of buildings, but I don't know about the catwalk or anything like that. I just remembered that there was the Lithuanian student that he talked about, and was it Catch a Falling Star or?
That was a pilot.
Oh, was the pilot?
Yeah, he was talking to him at the jukebox. Little Lithuanian girl named Vanessa. Yeah.
So again, it was just me infusing as much as I could into it, and and trying to keep the tension ratcheted up.
That's good. For me, a story that is good is like when I'm getting into it, like I'm watching it on a movie screen or something, or I'm there experiencing it, and like I don't see the words anymore, or in this case, hear the person reading it. Like I'm really there. It's getting there for me. I like it.
Well, I'm glad you guys are enjoying it. I'm glad you enjoyed that passage. I thought, is it too self-indulgent? But we're all fans here. There's no such thing.
That's right.
Hey, Chris, I've often wondered, the woman on the cover here, is that Sammy Joe?
Yeah, you missed this story that I told. I think you had to punch out last time. I'll do it again just for the benefit of Mike, who I don't think heard it, but I have to go get the book. Give me a second.
Hopefully you're wearing pants.
Oh, yeah.
For exploration, he never wears pants. Always with the blur. Always with the blur.
When we were...
It's a special for the OnlyFans QLP edition.
Exactly.
Uh-oh. I don't know what I missed, but
we were talking about you never wear pants on Trek Exploration.
There we go. So if you've seen the cover of Loch Ness Leap, Sammy Joe is a character in Loch Ness Leap. So they made this illustration of her front and center. And when Ginger found out that Sammy Joe was going to be a character in my book, a main character, she said, all right, take this illustration and age it up. So they aged it up to whatever this freaking school marm is that they put on the cover of my book, because that ain't Sammy Joe. That's the one disappointment I have about the cover of my book. That's supposed to be Sammy Joe, and that's supposed to be what this one has turned into. I mean, I guess I see it, but I don't know. It just, but yeah, Hayden, to answer your question.
Yeah.
That's
well, I'm surprised they didn't just get the woman who played Abigail in the trilogy and just got her image and put it on.
Yeah, maybe they didn't want to pay Melora Hardin.
Well,
maybe they didn't have the rights to her image, and they wanted to be safe in that regard.
Yeah, that's what I said last week. I always imagined her, Melora Hardin.
Yeah, I mean, Al even says it in the first chapter where they're back at the project, and he has this little heart-to-heart with Sammy Joe. So
isn't that Jerry Hardin's daughter? Is that right?
Yep.
Yes.
And she was on Dance with the Stars. Remember that?
All right, and we spoke to Jerry Hardin for 11/22/63. Skipper is friends with
an event podcast. Yeah, that's a great one.
So we interviewed Jerry because he played Deep Throat, I think, and there was something else he was connected to. Maybe it was the JFK movie or something. I don't recall.
Some JFK thing, maybe a Twilight Zone episode or something.
Yeah, it could be. I think maybe it was the Twilight Zone. Yeah,
that was a good get.
It was a long time
Great
ago.
interview.
Long time.
And it was also in the Roberto episode.
Oh, you're right. Oh, that's funny.
Too bad we didn't think about that at the time. Is that in the interview? I don't know. It's been a couple years since I listened to it. We are going to be starting chapter 17, and now is the time to donate if you haven't yet.
Yeah, and it's going to go quick because this is only like a 3-page chapter. So
throw some money in the tip jar.
Throw some money in the tip jar. Go to the QR code right above my head here, and
give Zach a good Christmas.
GoFundMe, please. Let's help out Matt's family as much as we can.
Yes. Hey, Chris, are T-shirts available as free gifts?
Anything you want to make as free gifts with a logo on it, I could do it.
Okay. How about if we go over 200, you get a T-shirt?
Sure. I mean, we're gonna have to figure out how to ship these things, but sure.
Yeah, in the continental United States, not Pueblo, Colorado, but we'll ship them. You still got some of that blue paper, Chris?
Which blue paper? The crinkly
the crinkly confetti paper.
I think I do.
Okay, cool. So mug.
Pretty sure I do.
Yeah. So. And if you want both, $250, right? Mug
Whatever
and
you
T-shirt
say.
combination.
Albie he is laying down the law as we go. I love it.
Yeah, just coming up with ideas.
Anyone who donates, just write down what you want and we'll see.
Yeah, no purchase necessary. Void where prohibited. Not available in Pueblo, Colorado, continental United States. and all that jazz. And just so you know, that's not coming out of the money going to Matt's family. That's from us. So one's got nothing to do with the other.
Yes.
All right.
For
Give,
sure.
give, give. It's the season
Please.
for giving.
Please do. Please. And help keep Matt's memory alive.
Absolutely. Celebrate our friend. All right. Oh, and we have new Matt content coming out very shortly. So make sure you subscribe and look for that.
Yes, please do.
Previously unreleased stuff. Okay. Bring us home. The author of the book, Christopher DeFilippis.
I guess
with chapter 17.
It's fitting. I started with an Anne-Marie chapter and I end with an Anne-Marie chapter.
Love it.
Anne-Marie peered into the night as she silently closed the door of the building. It wouldn't do for Becca to hear her now, not when she was so close. The only motion she saw through the moisture her breath left on the glass was leaves blowing across the walk. The guard wasn't following. Hell, he probably hadn't even noticed her, too busy slobbering into the phone. Anne-Marie shuddered at the image. He looked so much like Tibber that she was still debating whether to go back and kill him just for the hell of it. No, she was here for a greater purpose, the greater prize. The voices laughed in assent. They could have been laughing for most of the last week. I'm sorry, let me get my glasses on. That part. Okay. The voices laughed in assent. They had been laughing for most of the last week, urging her on, confirming the justice of her actions. Getting the gun had gone smoothly. Rodimer had come through with an impressive piece. She hefted its cold weight as she drew it from her waistband. Nice and heavy. She didn't know what kind it was, nor did she care. The only thing she needed to be sure of was that the bullets it fired would take most of Beckett's head with them. Quit your dawdling, girl. Justice is at hand. You won't be a victim no more, will you? The time for giving in to fear is past. Anne-Marie sprang into motion, stalking quickly and silently down the shadowy corridor, shrugging off her backpack as she went. She had taken her treasures with her, using them for inspiration. The magazine photo wasn't enough. Her own drawings of Beckett seemed more real to her, more concrete. They also didn't impart the mysterious, dreadful fear she felt whenever she looked at the Time cover. But she would have to part with them for the time being. They would get in her way. A sloshing sound came from the bottom of the sack as it hit the floor. She unzipped the front compartment and took out the knife, leaving the rest. She would retrieve the sack of treasure later to add it to the last and best booty of all, if she could find it. She had only tailed the two men closely enough to see them come into this building. She had no clue where they were now. How hard can it be to find them, you weak-minded fool? They're the only ones here. She nodded absently, like shooting fish in a barrel. Search and destroy. Much easier than she would have thought possible. Dressed in jeans, flannel shirt, and preppy boots, looking like the typical New England college student searching for a quiet place to study, she hadn't had much trouble getting close to the arriving party guests or staying far enough away to prevent them from seeing the wrinkles around her eyes, the lines drawing her mouth down at the edges. Her youth, her looks, her money, gone. Revenge was the only thing she had left. His death, the only thing she could look forward to. And her luck in getting to him was holding. When she had found that crawl space in the other building, she knew the gods were still on her side. Beckett had been in clear view below, circling the room from group to group, making the pathetic sheep bleat with laughter before moving on. Smug bastard. All she would have had to do was wait for him to stand at the podium to give his little speech, and wham! The part of him that everyone was making such a fuss over would be plastered on the wall, in clear sight for closer inspection. She couldn't have asked for anything more. Beckett had talked for a while with an older guy who must be the professor named in the article. She had felt a moment of panic when the two had left the room and had run back the way she had come. She stopped at the door, opened it a crack, and watched as the two men went upstairs to the lobby. They were leaving. She had counted to 20 before concealing the gun and going after them. Staying discreet had become more important than ever. The gravel-voiced little troll had almost ruined everything, stumbling out of nowhere. "Hey, dollface," she mimicked disgustedly into the empty corridor. "Go back up the stairs and I'll give you a private lesson you won't soon forget." What the hell had he meant by that, the little weasel? She had repressed the urge to see how a cigar would look sticking out of his rump and instead knocked him to the carpet before continuing her pursuit. He was so drunk he would eventually have gone down without her help. The weak-willed idiot probably couldn't recall his own name if asked. He would never remember her. No immediate need to take care of him. Beckett first, then Lone Negro, nice and neat. Maybe she would cap the professor first, if seeing him die would hurt Beckett. The options were thrilling. Then she would go back and kill the drunk and the guard. What the hell? She had bullets to spare. Her circuit of the first floor was complete. Nothing. She found a flight of steps and climbed. Come out, wherever you are. Thunder, ocean's rage, boomed outside, adding to her internal rumblings. A lightning flash illuminated her first step into the corridor, spilling in from a window at the near end. Yamea guiding her steps. Amory carefully surveyed the doors lining the hall. All were closed except she walked deliberately towards the strip of light at the end of the corridor. Eligba's path to spiritual transfiguration. The time is at hand, child. The door stood slightly ajar, the brightness spilling from behind it, a beacon, calling her, pulling her. Strength, weakling. Blood pounded in her ears. She could almost smell him. Your experiment is at an end. She rapped the wood lightly with the gun 3 times.
Oh, man. We got to wait a week?
Got to wait
I
a week.
don't know. Man.
You could read ahead if you wanted to.
She's
Yeah,
closing
I
in.
read.
Yes,
on
but
your
I
own.
can't get the author to read it to me ahead of time.
Now I know what Anne-Marie's supposed to sound like.
So
Yeah, there you
she sounds
go.
like me. She sounds just like me.
You have a beautiful voice, Christopher DeFilippis.
Good.
Wow. Dun, dun, dun. That's a good cliffhanger to end on.
Mhm.
Yeah. Once I saw that's where we were leaving off, I was like, yeah, that's perfect. So,
Perfect.
Nice.
See,
Yep.
that's why you wrote these all this many years ago for the audio version on YouTube.
I guess.
Before
I
the
guess.
days of satellite and cable television.
It's funny because I forgot about one certain aspect of what Anne-Marie is doing here, or what she's planning, that Allison pointed out in her review of my book that she said was absolutely wild, or one of the 10 most wild things. And it has to do with the sloshing in the bag that I had just read about. So,
Mhm.
but
Very descriptive.
anyway, we'll know more about
What
that
did
next
you-
time.
what
And
did
the
she say about
denouement.
that?
Huh? Oh, Allison
Well,
said
what
it's one of
did
the
she say
wildest
about
things ever. Once we reveal what it's all about, it'll make
Okay.
more sense. Or you can just go watch Allison's video. It's on her Movie Nights channel, Movie
Ooh,
Nights the series, I believe.
We should figure out how to link to that somewhere, too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
I think I
uh,
might have put it on the
Join us
website
next
a
week.
while ago.
yeah. So it's around somewhere. You just search Allison Pregler Quantum Leap. It'll come up one of probably like a dozen videos that she's done.
Yeah,
I'll
she's
grab
done some
that
great
link
ones.
for next week.
Yeah.
Thank
yeah.
you.
Nice.
It'll be more apropos next week too, because then we'll be able to reference stuff directly. So yeah, I mean, we got some stuff going on here, and this is a nice crescendo to end on, I believe. So we hope that encourages you guys to keep up with this month of Matt, and to keep on tuning in and helping us commemorate the memory of our dear friend, and helping his family have a good holiday season.
Thank you so much, Christopher, for letting us do this, even though you know nothing about it.
Oh, who? Chris who?
All right, let's start with Mike and Damon. Let us know where people can find you.
Do you want to say it, Mike? You can say it. I kind of said it last week.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I'll take
Yeah.
a turn. Well, we
Yeah.
together we co-host Fandom Entanglement. Currently doing a retro review of Sliders. Well done, Albie. You can find us at fandomentanglement.com, where there are links to our Facebook group and YouTube channel. And you can also get in touch with us the old-fashioned way via email there if you like.
Awesome.
Yep.
Hayden, you are the host of Quantum Leap segment and host of the Quantum Leap podcast after show, and also a math tutor. Is that right?
Yeah. Toot on.
He's a professor. So if you're down under and need to know how maths work, give him a ring.
Oh, I can do it worldwide. I do everything online now.
Oh wow, that's true.
I'm not leaving my home office now. There's
So-
no point.
What's the opposite of down under? Up over. So if you're up over too.
I suppose. That's
Stacie.
if you believe that Australia is down under. We're not. We're on top.
Yeah, you're on top. Yeah. Stacie, I can do this.
Okay.
The Korman Productions TV Talk Deep Dive Podcast. Really close?
Korman Productions Deep Dive TV Podcast.
Oh, I was so close. I'll get it. Stacie.
There's no TV talk. That Chris started that. I don't know.
Oh, okay.
I started that. TV talk was the little prize that my dad would get.
It's part of my one of my socials is Susie Q's TV talk. That has nothing to do with the podcast, though.
Oh,
that's just my account somewhere.
But there's but it's not just. I'm not making up out of like whole cloth.
No, you're not making it up.
Marie voices in my head.
You know,
okay.
Sticking
so where does Al's Place come into the title?
It doesn't. No.
Okay, Stacie, let us know your name and where people can find you.
Yeah, so you can find us on Korman Productions. Go to YouTube. I'll put the link down there in a minute. We are closing in on 2,000 subscribers on YouTube.
Wow.
We're trying to hit that number by the end of the year. So if anybody who's watching this isn't subbed, please go do so. We're also on Spotify and Apple and Amazon Podcasts or wherever. All those places too, if you prefer to listen instead of going to YouTube. And we are currently covering From on MGM Plus Season 3, Sullivan's Crossing Season 2, which airs on the CW. We just finished Teacup on Peacock. That's a hard one for me to say. And we're doing movies. We did horror movies for October. We're doing a couple Thanksgiving movies, and we've got some Christmas movies coming up in December. So lots and lots of good stuff. And then once our fall programming is all done, we're going to start on Quantum Leap Season 5.
Yay! Awesome. Wow. That's awesome. What Thanksgiving movies are you doing besides Planes, Trains, and Automobiles?
Son-in-Law, which actually released a couple days ago.
Wow. I saw that. I didn't know that was a Thanksgiving movie. I'll have to check that out.
It is. Go watch it. It's
been a long
funny.
Long time since I watched it.
Speaking of Christmas shows, we have to organize our viewing of A Little Miracle. What level are we up to? Level 10 or something by now?
9 or 10. What is it? 9?
8.
Yeah.
8? Level 8.
Close enough.
Level 8.
Oh, right. We're hoping to get the gaffer.
We're definitely
from
not getting out of limbo now.
This time. If not the best boy. Christopher, where can people find you and I if they want to continue this 5-hour journey that you and I are having tonight?
We are doing that, are we? Okay. We are at,
as long as we can stay awake. I don't know.
YouTube.com/@Trexploration or Patreon.com/Trexploration. Albie and I are currently hosting the Trexploration podcast, in which we are doing Next Gen and Lower Decks concurrently. We just released our episode for
Too Short a Season.
Thank you. Too Short a Season. That episode's so screamingly horrible that I couldn't remember the title.
Yes.
You should go and see what we say about that over there. Boy, we got a lot. And we have a guest host, the beautiful John Irons, Captain Game Show himself.
Yes.
Is also part of that conversation. That poor bastard. So
and our next show, we're going to be talking about Lower Decks Season 5, Episode 5, Starbase 80.
Starbase 80?
Starbase 80. Ooh. Don't go there.
Starbase 80? Yeah, so we that's coming up soon on our Lower Decks reviews. And we're having a lot of fun over there. So that's soon to be Trexploration.com as well, where you can.
We got a soft rollout coming out.
Yeah, ooh. I saw a preview of the website today. It looks hella sharp.
It's going to be awesome.
The kids are still saying that, right?
I think so. Hella. And we are also approaching almost 2,000 subscribers on YouTube. We just need about 1,800 more. So do what you can to subscribe.
Yes, please. And before you do any of that, click the QVC code up above my head here. And,
QR. Quick response.
Just please
show us your mugs. What mugs you got?
Contribute to Matt's family and go to his GoFundMe page, and we can have maybe just the hope of a little bit brighter Christmas for his partner and for his son. So
donate a new wrapped or unwrapped donation digitally to the GoFundMe.
Yes, please.
And it's getting close to the end of the year. I think that's tax deductible, isn't it? A GoFundMe when it's a charity thing.
I would guess so. Yeah.
Check it. Don't take my word for it, but check it out. And if you run a huge corporation and instead of donating to the Human Fund this year, donate to Matt's Legacy.
Please,
that'd be great. Thank you, everybody, for joining us, hosts and chatters and audience alike, and we really appreciate it. And we're doing this one more time for the conclusion of the good book, Foreknowledge.
Yes, we have one last reading left. It'll be chapters 18, starting page 179, and going to the epilogue, which ends at 242.
And give us a little preview. Next time on the Quantum Leap Podcast Live, the story will
end.
There you go.
This is the
exciting conclusion.
Beautiful friend.
Chekhov's gun. Will it be used? I don't know. I'm excited.
Chekhov's. That's the wrong franchise, sir.
Oh, that's true. That's Star Trek. Trexploration. YouTube.com/@Trexploration. Check the QR code. Check the links below. Thank you, Stacie, so much for keeping track of the chat tonight. Really appreciate it. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Hayden. Thank you, Damon. Thank you, Stacie. For the Quantum Leap, for the Quantum Leap Podcast, yes. I'm Albie.
I'm Chris.
You guys.
Who's next?
I'm living the nightmare.
Hey,
you.
I'm Damon.
I'm Mike.
I'm Stacie.
And we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.
Peace out. Bye. And we are still live, but we're recording credits.
Yeah.
So anything you say can and will be used against you.
Yeah.
Yes. A little preview of Trexploration. I have a Trek Intel. What is it? I don't know.
Oh, boy.
Uh-oh. Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah.
And we're going to go deep sea diving.
Oh, man.
The next episode. Did you watch that, Damon? Did you watch episode 5 yet at Lower Decks?
I'm not caught up on New Trek at all.
All right. You have to join us for a classic Trek somewhere in there.
Yeah. And anything of the older stuff. I will get there at some point. It's very busy with a 4-year-old.
Yeah, 4 is difficult.
I can only imagine.
It's great. Just get them to watch the show with you.
Yeah.
Oh, Brian Green says, I just missed you guys.
Oh, sorry, Brian.
Luckily,
his name's getting better. One of us will get shot next week.
Yeah, check out, I'm sure there'll be a embedded video on alsplace.com at some point. So check that out. Okay. We're going to end the live stream. Everybody watching live stream, thank you so much for participating.
Thank you, everybody.
And check out for the slightly edited version in the future. Donate. We love you, Matt. Bye.
I love you, Matt. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay, don't nobody go anywhere until you're all fully uploaded.